So, first of all, I extend my gratitude to this online Nakura, and they wanted to give a free session to every student, benefit of every student. So we started a revision program where we discussed questions, past papers extensively. Your all theoretical areas was covered using that past papers. For example, we discussed 2025 past papers more than 5 hours, maybe, right? For each and every section we discussed. Firstly, we went through summary, then we discussed all the past papers. So now you have a good understanding. If you participated on that revision program, you have a good understanding how you face the exam. And I'm extending my gratitude to this institute because they wanted to provide free sessions to students for the benefit of student. Why? Everyone is facing this exam as the last chance for this syllabus. Then the syllabus will be changing and change will be more difficult. There will be more text planning side will be considered, not only the law, right? So I expect that after the change, the subject will be more difficult, right? So this will be the good chance, last chance for you to pass the exam if someone has already failed first attempt, second attempt, that's charted, right? Charted, you fail. That's definitely you have to bear that, right? So under this tax subject, this is a more than a exam. This will give you good guidance on your practical life, practical career. Right. We'll come to the past paper discussion. Now, this program is for providing the paper discussion now. So when comes to the exam, what is the critical exam success factor, students? If you doing the chartered for years, you should know that. What should be the critical factor? If you want to pass the exam, what is the correct way? Whatever subject, not only text. Admin, can you turn on mic? I think that students cannot turn on mics. Can anyone drop message? Yeah, Kalna is saying that past paper doing is a must. Yeah. For your exam now, let's take whatever the subject you are facing, right? Now you don't know any theory, right? You don't know anything. Let's take FM, whatever, right? Let's take text. So now there is only 1 month. It's, maybe no month also, only few weeks. What now you should do is don't worry about your theoretical knowledge. Don't go back and worry and read all these notes, right? What you should do now is start doing past papers. Not start actually. Now revise your past paper knowledge. In our class, I am always saying if you are to pass the exam and take a prize also, what you should do is you have to first read past paper one time and see whether you can answer or not. Right? Try to answer. Second time, you watch your lectures explanation. Maybe my lectures, whatever the lectures, right? Lecture also doing past papers now. Then understand every question. Third time, you do it yourself under the condition of examination. In the condition of examination, right? You have to keep the time and do the past paper in exam condition. If you do one past paper 3 times, definitely will be passing the exam, right? However, if you want to get prize, you have to do more, right? If you want to pass the exam, let's say now you don't know any theory, let's say FM subject or tax, whatever. Now you start doing past papers 3 times per one past paper. One past paper should be doing at least 3 times, right? That's the secret of passing CA exam. Even though you know in and outs of your theory, you can't pass the exam. How you pass? You practice past papers. That's what required for the CA exam. That's the uh, fascinating way of the CA, because they want people with practical knowledge rather than someone who is knowing all the theories, right? You should know all the theories and the practice also, right? So that's the aim behind this program, and we will discuss past papers and take this text subject now. You know the exam structure. I hope you know, because now it's almost 1 month to the exam. So can someone say what is the exam is a paper structure? Can anyone say? Right? Yeah. Firstly, there will be a uh, third question will be from your income tax knowledge and pre-C, right? That will be a easy question. Most of the time, it will be a easy question because you can earn lot of mark. However, it time consuming. That question is time consuming. So the method of taking marks on that question is practice in the past paper, right? You have to make up your time, speed. Next, there will be a VAT question and maybe individual tax question. There are areas, right? Or tax planning. Likewise, there are many areas. And first question will be your non-resident person taxation. So when speaking to few students, I found out that for many students, this non-resident person taxation is very difficult. Am I correct? What is the difficult part? Is it company taxation, individual taxation, VAT, or non-resident taxation? What you prefer to learn today? Any idea? If if taken the past paper as well, what is the most required section for you to learn? What is the difficult part? So students, well, now it's 9, no? 9 to uh, 9 to 11, or maybe tomorrow we are doing this, right? So it's very important that you speak, that you send message like Kalana, right? So otherwise this will be very boring, right? So I hope that admin can allow everyone to speak. Yeah. Now two is saying non-resident tax. Hasin is saying, Sachitra saying non-resident tax. Right. Anyone else? Any other preference? Hope you can turn on your mics, right? Yeah, everyone says non-resident tax now. Yeah. Ishanth, everyone said non-resident. In Subramanian saying, please do the individual NRA. NRA means non-resident, right? What you mean by NRA, Subramanian? Non-resident. Oh, is that something else? So I'll go with most preferred area, right? That is non-resident taxation. Today I'll teach you every bit of non-resident taxation from beginning to end, right? Everything. I'll teach everything. So you have to carefully listen to me. That's now take few 30 seconds and think that today you will take non-resident taxation at its fullest, right? You will remember everything on non-resident taxation. Now think on that, right? You have to carefully listen to each and every word that I am saying today and memorize everything, right? Within this, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 hours, maybe till tomorrow, right? Because I'll completely teach you non-resident taxation, not only for you. I have seen many other, when we work in this tax consultancy field, we have seen many chartered accountants and accountants is not understand this subject, non-resident taxation. Even IRD people, when we go to take tax clearance, IRD people even do not understand. Even your examiner also sometimes I have seen in suggested solution, right? So I'll completely teach you every area right? Being this is a past paper discussion, there will be certain limitation. However, I'll give you simple understanding to complex understanding. So carefully listen to what I am explaining. So everyone is with me, right? Hope everyone focus will not go any other way. Right. Okay. So if you know this, you can show color to your company also, right? I know that many are taking tax clearances, everything, but they don't know whether the payment that you are making is liable to tax or not. You know, you are taking tax clearance in your now. You are strategic level students now, not doing ground level job. I hope you are doing some high level jobs also, right? So probably in your career you had to take a tax clearance from the department at least once. You have taken. I know that. So in after today, you should be able to apply this knowledge to your company, your practical aspect career as well, right? Not only for exam. So that's how I'm teaching here. So you have to focus with me. Without saying much, we'll start from there are good question, right? We'll start from simple question first. Right? Take 2023 December question 1. I'll share my screen. This is the paper. December 2023. Right. When at your exam, what is the first question that you should answer? Most of the time, everyone advised to answer third question because you can gain easy marks there. However, that marks can be gained only if you have practice, right? Practice of answering it within the time. Otherwise, you will end up with consuming more time and end up with without any time to these question, right? Right. So question number 1. Can anyone read this? In my classes, when I'm teaching to small kids, that old era, I'm asking everyone to read, then students are actually reading it. But I don't know whether you guys are able to read. I don't know. Can anyone read it? Krishant, can you read it? Right. Okay, I'll read it. I'll read it. Firstly, see what is the requirement under this question. First requirement. Required. Discuss whether Nero India is required to pay taxes in Sri Lanka. Whether Nero designing is required to pay taxes in Sri Lanka. Right. Support your answer with citing statutory provision. Citing statutory provision. Now they are specifically asked to cite statutory provision, right? If they haven't asked, you just mention what is there in the law. You can just simply mention, but they specifically ask you to cite it, right? You have to write the law as amended and the articles of the Treaty of the Avoidance of Double Tax between Sri Lanka and India, right? So do you want me to directly go to the question or do you want me to explain the theory first, then question? What is the approach that you wish? Kalana is saying theory. Right. Everyone saying theory. Right. Right. Yeah. I'll explain. Unfortunately, here, when I'm lecturing, I want a board. Right. Board and I need to stand and explain. But unfortunately, today I'm like delivering lecture at my home, less facilities. Therefore, bear with me and I'll explain in this way, right? Right. Firstly, theory. So, now let's take Income Tax Act. In the Income Tax Act, can someone say how person being taxed? How a person being taxed. If I'm going to explain theory first and then the question, please stay with me till late night because it will take more time than expected, right? So I hope you will be staying with me. If participants get below 30, I'll stop doing it and uh, I'll just show you the answers. Right. Someone said theory and revision. Right. It's like this, students. Now, yeah. Madhusha is saying correct. Taxable income plus final withholding payment. Right. When person is under charging section, if you have a taxable income and final withholding payment, then that person is taxable, right? When it comes to non-resident person taxation, you have to remember certain steps, right? Certain steps. If you know these steps, you can answer any non-resident person tax question, right? Whatever method you can answer. What are the steps? Can anyone say what are the steps of answering question for non-resident person tax question? Anyone have any idea? Madhusha, any idea? Now, why I am asking question, then you are starting to think, right? Otherwise, if I am explaining only, then you are not thinking, right? Resident period requirement, Subramaniam said. Yeah, one aspect it's correct, right? Now, steps. First step, second step, third step. Likewise, if I am giving you the steps, it will be very easy for you to answer the question. For any question, you need to write these steps, right? Any question, you have to write these steps. Then you need to practice question only, right? So what would be the step? Yeah. Vijay Ratna saying resident income, right? Without wasting time, we don't have much time. Non-resident person is student. First step is to understand whether the person. Now, question gives some person's information and asks you to compute the tax liability, right? Firstly, you need to understand whether this person become a resident or non-resident person, right? So that's the first line you need to answer. In your answer, first line should be whether this person become a resident or non-resident person. How you find that thing? How you find it? Under section 69, you are taking your act now. Even you don't take act, you should remember everything, right? Resident rule, everyone remember? You should remember it, right? If you are doing tax, you should remember residence rule. So, for a company, to be resident, what should happen? For a company to be resident, it should be either incorporated in Sri Lanka or place of effective management should be in Sri Lanka, right? To be a resident. If not, it is a non-resident, right? Now you can remember that now. Can you remember that? Right. Manjusha say yes. So I expect others also can remember that. For a company, how to determine residency under section 69? If the company has incorporated in Sri Lanka or place of effective management and control is in Sri Lanka, it is resident in Sri Lanka. Here, don't get it incorrectly that management and control does not mean parent subsidiary relation, right? Those are separate legal persons, right? said Google has a company in separate incorporated company in Sri Lanka. So that Google is a separate entity in another country, and Sri Lankan one is a separate entity. It does not say that foreign Google is a resident in Sri Lanka, but Sri Lanka incorporated company will be a resident. Yeah. Another criteria is registered office should be in Sri Lanka, but most of the time in your examination and in practice, prevailing condition would be this incorporation and place of effective management, right? Registered office also should be in Sri Lanka. For everything, you can refer section 69 if you don't remember everything, right? But this understanding, this simple understanding required for you to understand the question and think about the answer, right? Think about the answer. For individual, what is the residence principle? Main two, main two criteria for individual. Yeah, Krishant saying 183. Should physically stay in Sri Lanka for 183. In addition to that, in not only that, even he is reside in Sri Lanka, habitually abode. His permanent home is in Sri Lanka, or his family is in Sri Lanka, or center of vital economic interest is in Sri Lanka, that person is considered to be resident in Sri Lanka. For example, let's say I am going abroad and stay another country more than 183. So that's make I am not staying in Sri Lanka more than 183 days. However, my family is in Sri Lanka. Then what happens? Even though I am in abroad, I will be a Sri Lankan resident, right? Yeah, Shan is saying correct. Resides in SL for more than 183 days, stay in Sri Lanka, right? So that those areas you need to understand correctly, right? So first step of non-resident taxation is mm, I'm explaining simple, right? Writing whether this person is a resident or not, right? Now this is the first answer. In your answer, first line should be whether this person is a resident person or not. Now that clear, no? That you can remember. Second line, what should be the second line? Now let's say in equation you understand it is a non-resident person based on section 69. You write it. Better you write the section also. Section 69 is stay. If this condition satisfied, it's a resident. If not, it is a non-resident. So based on given case, this person is a non-resident person, right? Second criteria, what? Second step that you need to write in your answer. For every question, you can follow these steps, right? For every question, you can follow these steps. That's very important. Now, after today, you will never lose any marks for this non-resident person computation. You will take full marks. I'm pretty sure on that. Yeah. Kirtana is saying which countries tax avoidance agreement need to be used. Sashini is saying source of payment. Right. Different answers, but second line should be now you know it's a non-resident person. Then what tag that say? Why we divide people into resident and non-resident persons? What is the purpose of that division? Why we do that? Any idea? Before going to source of payments or before going to DTS, now why we divide persons among residents and non-resident persons? Any answer? No, not double tax problem, right? Simple answer is as per the charging section, section 4 assessable income, for resident persons, world income is liable for the tax. For non-resident person, sources in or arisen in or derived from a source in Sri Lanka will be liable for the tax, right? That's the importance. of this division. If person become a resident, his world income, wherever the sources, he may be earning income in USA, France, whatever the country, that all income will be liable to tax in Sri Lanka unless exempted. Second step. First step, identify non-resident person or not. Then, why we identified non-resident person or not? As per section 4, resident persons are taxable on their world income, and non-resident persons are taxable only on sources of income in Sri Lanka, sources arising in or derived in Sri Lanka, right? That you can remember now. Actually, I haven't shared the screen because still I am not explaining the past paper. In any case, do you want me to share the screen? Student, do you want me to still share the screen? I hope not, because you can see me see my explanation when we looking at past paper. I will share. Is that fine? Okay. Keep say. Right. Second step. Uh, what is the second step? Now can you type? I explain now. Don't take this into a boring side. Now I hope I feel that everyone is boring one by one because I'm explaining theories. Right. Right. First step, resident or non-resident. Second step, as per the section 4, non-resident person is liable to tax in Sri Lanka on the sources in Sri Lanka. Right? You can simply write that sentence, right? In your words. Don't remember everything. In your words, write it. First step, in short note, you write whether resident or not. Then non-resident person, source in Sri Lanka taxable. Source in Sri Lanka taxable. Right? That's all. That's the second step. Right? Then third step. What is the third step? You don't go to DTA, right? Don't go to DTA. Don't jump to DTA, right? Third step. Then you have to determine. Now you establish he is a non-resident, and only the sources in Sri Lanka will be taxable. Third line. What are the sources that this person is having in Sri Lanka? That you need to explain based on the given question. Right? Third one. That's the third step. There will be a question. There will be a payment for a software, payment for a royalty, payment for a business profit, payment for fee for technical services. Likewise, there will be a different payment for each question. Whatever the question, you need to identify whether this payment, whether this person has a source in Sri Lanka. Right? That is the third line. Now, are you with me? What are the three steps? Can someone type entire three steps? First one. Student, better if you can speak without wasting time on writing everything. Please speak. Yeah. Now, very good short note is given by Shashini. NRO, identify non-resident or resident. Right. No, right. Correct. First step. Second one. Second one. Second one. Just simple sentence. Non-resident person will be liable to tax in Sri Lanka only on sources in Sri Lanka. The simple paragraph you need to write. Third one, as per given case, what are the sources in Sri Lanka? Right? That's the third one. Correct? I'm explaining simple approach. I have explained this in detail in my class, right? In my paper class, I have done an extensive question that 2025 or 24. I explained this in extensively in every areas, right? Right. Right. Sashini, correction to that. Third step, you don't write the argument, right? You simply write non-resident persons income will be liable to tax in Sri Lanka only if it is a source in Sri Lanka. Or non-resident persons are liable to tax in Sri Lanka only to the extent of sources of income that arise in or derived in a source of income in Sri Lanka. Likewise, whatever the paragraph, right? What is the main idea you need to deliver? Only sources in Sri Lanka will be taxable, right? That's the third para. If you write this, there will be certain marks. Now you have clearly obtained marks for your question. Right now, examiner, when reading all these things, he know this student is understand the non-resident person taxation. Right. In the process of identifying whether there is a source in Sri Lanka or not, what are the section that you need to refer? First, section 69 in the first step, you have to remember it now. Now, don't take it to another date. Now, section 69, first step, section 4, second step, third step. What is the section? Someone said earlier. Earlier, someone section 73. Correct, Shashini. Section 73. Yeah, section 73. That's correct. That's the simple understanding, right? I'm not going to explain complex areas now. After question, I'll explain every complex area, right? Every complex area. Just before starting question, I'm giving simple understanding, right? Everyone referring the section 73. That's the basic understanding that even department people, even accountant, even some tax consultants are having, right? That's the basic understanding. But there will be other understanding as well, right? You have to refer section 72 also. You read it, you will find, right? I have seen in practice also, some are saying that this drop shipping kind of thing are not liable to tax because it's outside, source outside Sri Lanka. It's there, it is not covered under section 73. Drop shipping kind of things, right? I have seen in practice, right? Even tax consultants are some are saying drop shipping because you are getting foreign currency and it's outside Sri Lanka. You are not bringing any goods into Sri Lanka, right? You take goods from Japan and send it to a USA. Right? Do you believe that it is not taxable based on that source outside Sri Lanka? Now, in future, this exemption will not be there. It will tax at that sources outside Sri Lanka will be taxed at 15% from year of assessment 25, 26 onwards. But for your exam, 24, 25 will be tested. Do you think that this drop shipping is not a source in Sri Lanka? When you think about it, you feel that it is outside Sri Lanka, so source outside Sri Lanka, right? So when you read in section 73, again you say it's not covered under section 73, no activity in Sri Lanka. Am I correct? Am I correct? Now, if you are learning this subject, you should be able to advise. You should be a tax consultant, right? If you are learning this, we being tax consultant just by learning this subject, right? In chartered. So you also need to be tax consultant in a way. And everything you need to understand for your board, for your bosses, you should advise. Right. That comes under section 72, right? If you read it, you will find, right? Not only section 73, section 72 also you need to refer. Actually, section 72 is the source of in Sri Lanka, right? Section 73 is only source of payment from Sri Lanka, right? So there are complication. I'll not touch this complication now, but after discussing question, I'll touch all these complication, right? I'm just giving the overview before proceeding to the question, right? Uh, Next one. Hmm, what is the next step? When you understanding the source of payment in Sri Lanka, sometimes you may need to find whether there is a P in Sri Lanka or not, right? Whether there is a permanent establishment in Sri Lanka or not, right? You better write everything that I am explaining, right? I hope everyone writing. When we learning, when lecture explains something, we write everything without waiting for a note, right? So when you write in the answer for whether there is a source of payment in Sri Lanka, you need to find whether there is a Sri Lankan permanent establishment or not, right? Still we are at IRA, Inland Revenue Act. We haven't went to DTA yet, right? We haven't went to DTA yet. Now third step done. Let's say there is a source of payment in Sri Lanka. Let's say it's a royalty payment, right? What is the next step? Next, now three step you have written already. For next one, now you analyze and written the answer that there is a source of payment in Sri Lanka, right? Then what is the next step? Yeah, Shan, correct. Now next step is, let's say we identify there is a PE. If there is a PE, you need to understand how tax should be computed for PE, right? PE tax, there are several areas you need to understand that it is a separate entity. Under section 76, it said that PE is a separate entity from its head office, so associates, right? So you need to treat it as a company incorporated in Sri Lanka and compute tax and pay taxes as a company in Sri Lanka. One example, give some example that PEs in Sri Lanka, public known PEs. Is there any example? Yeah, Kirtana correct. HSBC Bank. Yeah, Unilever, I don't know whether there is an incorporated company or not. If you see any brand in Sri Lanka where there is no company incorporated, that is a PE in Sri Lanka. HSBC correct. Unilever, maybe. Actually, I am not aware about that. Right. Right. Then that's a one part. Next, let's say there is no PE, then whether this payment is, what is the tax rate actually? After source of payment, identification of source of payment, next step is understand what is the tax rate. If it is a PE, as usual for a company, right? If there is no PE, the payments to outside Sri Lanka, outward remittance will be subject to tax. So what are the taxes? What are the tax rate? You have to remember. Still we are at the IRA. Still we are at the IRA. Yes. For service fee payment, we know that tax rate is 14%. Under what section actually? Uh, yeah. Remittance tax also there under section 62. Remittance tax will be there when there is a PE, right? PE, you are paying corporate tax 30% and profit after tax multiplied by 14% remittance tax for PE. Then for sources of payments, two things you need to correctly get it. If there is a PE, that is computed as a normal company, income minus allowable expenses, then you apply 30% tax rate. And profit after tax, on profit after tax, you apply 14% remittance tax. And there are certain complications under remittance tax also, exemption on remittance tax given under section 62, right? That need to be understand, right? And also head limitation on head office expense also you need to remember if there is a PE, right? If your head office expense more than 10% of your assessable income, no deduction. Even expense below 10% is not allowed to deduct, right? No deduction. You read the act. I have explained this extensively. If you watch YouTube, we have uploaded. I think Institute and check with them has uploaded it in YouTube. There was a question on this remittance tax, right? You can learn everything on remittance tax if you watch that video, right? So that's for PE. If there's no PE, that's only an outflow to another foreign person. Then what is the tax rate? Then what is the tax rate? Where this tax rate is given? Sachin is saying 14%. That's correct. But where is it given? Where is it given? Section 7. No. What is section 7 is not now section. How you remember this section? Section 2, charging section. Section 3, taxable income. Section 4, assessable income. Section 5, employment income. Section 6, business income. Section 7, investment income. Section 8, other source of income. Section 9, exempt income. Section 10, disallowable expenses. Section 11, main deduction. Section 12 to 19, specific deduction, right? You have to remember all these main section, right? These are the main section. So section 7 is not applicable for this tax rate. Janaka is asking how to compute remittance. We will do a question. Yes. Today we will discuss. Today, yeah. If you are staying with me till late night, maybe 2 a.m., 3 a.m., I can discuss it, right? Uh, yeah, if you are at strategic level, you should stay that much of time for studies, right? Tomorrow, not only you, I also have to go to work by 8 a.m. So don't worry. Don't think about that. Don't think about sleep, right? Right. Madhush saying that first schedule. Yeah, first schedule. Yeah, normally tax rates are given under first schedule. But for this service fee, there is a specialty, students. There is a specialty. Section 8, you refer section. You can download amended Inland Revenue Act consolidated version, right? But I'm not sure whether it can be taken to exam. You might not be able. Most probably you might not be able to take consolidated Act 2 exam. If you can bargain with the institute, ask for that because it is published in the website, right? Ask from them whether they are allowing you to take it to exam. If you can take it, that's better, right? So there was amendment, and as per amendment, section 85 1B, it says service fee payment to, that's mean individual, mostly individual, this technical services, lecturing, likewise, the service fee payments to non-resident person is taxable at 14%, which is given under section 85, right? Not under first schedule. Not under first schedule, right? However, other investment return like dividend, interest, all those things are given as 14% under first schedule, paragraph 10. Paragraph 10, it is given every item is given as payment to residents, but there was one item, all other payments are 14%, other than dividend, right? Dividend, if it is 15%, right? All are 14%. So all payments to non-resident person tax at 14% except dividend. Remember that as per law. You don't need to remember every section on this tax rate, right? But this main section I mentioned earlier need to remember. But this tax rate section you don't need to remember, right? For for the easiness of your examination, remember that every payment is liable to 14% tax, or if it is dividend, 15%, right? Unless it is exempted, right? So if there is a source that is taxable in Sri Lanka, however, if that source also exempt under local law, then there won't be a taxes, right? For example, dividend, let's say it is an exempted dividend, pass-through dividend, that's exempted. Even non-resident is earning it, it's exempted, right? If it is given, you have to refer the exemption schedule whether it is for resident person or non-resident. As I remember, it is only for residents, right? So you have to see whether there is a source in Sri Lanka, whether it is taxable. If there is a source, then whether that source is taxable under what rate, whether it is exempted, whether it is taxable under what rate, right? That is the step. So now I feel that you forgot all the step prior this step. Can anyone say what are these steps? What are the steps? First step. First step, why I'm asking this again and again, I want you to remember everything today itself and take full marks to paper, this question, right? That's why I'm asking this again and again. Right, Madhush. Identifying resident status, whether resident or non-resident. Second step, no, not source of income. Yeah. We call it non-resident persons are taxable only on sources in Sri Lanka, right? Under section 4. That is the second step. Second answer. Third answer, whether there is a source in Sri Lanka or not, or PE. Those analysis you need to write, right? Based on IRA, right? Still we are at IRA. I am giving you the correct step to follow at your practice also, right? If someone is in practice, remember these are the correct steps to follow, not only for your exam, right? In your practice also, these are the correct steps to follow, right? Third, identify whether there is a source in Sri Lanka or not, or PE, right? Next, fourth, identify the tax liability under IRA, whether it is 14% tax or whether it is a PE that's subject to 30% company tax or that remittance tax, right? Identify the tax rate or whether it is exempted, right? So now 4 step is very clear for you. I hope it's very clear for you, right? Am I correct? Is it clear for everyone? Only Kirtana is speaking, Kirtana and Madhush. No any other students? Now 2 left. Now only 30. If someone left from here onwards, I'll just show you the answer and I'll also left. Yeah, right. Now these steps are very clear. So student, why I came from these steps, students? Before you are going to DTA actually, right? DTA we are taking into our hand only if a person liable to tax in Sri Lanka as per local law. That's the correct way of understanding the law. even when you are providing tax consultant, right? Tax consultancy, the correct approach is firstly see under local law this person is getting taxed or not, right? If this person does not get tax under local law, why you are looking at DTA? DTA cannot impose taxes on persons. Remember that. Even I have seen tax consultants also getting this wrong. They think that under DTA it is getting liable. Even though under local law it is not liable. Let's say software companies are exempted under local law. Then some are referring to DTA and say DTA prevail. As per DTA, it should be liable to tax. Even IRD officers are saying like that. I have seen. That's not correct. When you read the DTA students in the international taxation, you will find under purpose, objective clause, for the purpose of avoidance of double taxation or double non-taxation. This agreement is being entered between these countries. So DTA entered for which purpose? For the purpose of avoiding double taxation, right? Not to impose taxes. So DTA never be able to impose taxes, right? If it is under standard clause that's given under OECD or UN manuals, that they are not intended to impose taxes for a person, right? So you don't have to look at DTA if person is not liable for tax in Sri Lanka as per local law, right? So first step, now I am summarizing the first step, right? First step is to understand whether this person getting taxable in Sri Lanka or not. Are you agree with me? Now, are you agree with me whether first step is to, yeah, yeah, Krishant is saying. First step is to now remember, when there is a non-resident person question in your exam or practical case, first step for you is understanding whether this person getting taxed in Sri Lanka as per local law. Right. Everyone agreed. If someone is not agreed, just drop a message. I'll explain further. Right. In identifying whether this person is taxable in Sri Lanka or not, there are certain steps that you need to follow. What are the first steps? First, whether this person resident or non-resident. Under section 4, non-residents are taxable on only on source in Sri Lanka. Then what are the sources in Sri Lanka that derived by this person? Whether there is a PE. If PE, the liability is different, and if there's only payment to outside person, then liability will be different. Whether this is exempted, those steps you need to follow. So now you earn 50 marks for your question, right? Now is this question difficult? Is this structure is difficult? Why you are saying this non-resident person question is very difficult? Now, if you remember this, is this getting difficult? Can anyone say? Can anyone remember this step? And if you remember this step, is it difficult or not? No answer. Still, you are not sure about you. Do you feel that if you know this system, will the question will be difficult? Alnis say can yeah. Only we learned only 50% now. So if you know this step, can manage. That should be there, right? For every non-resident question, this step you need to follow, right? Only a standard steps. So just matter of remembering this. Right. Krishantan also say, yeah, now understood. Yeah. Earlier, when we started the class, different answers were there. Yeah. Sabit, I'll explain the fourth step again. I'm explaining all this step extensively in next discussion, right? No, not in next day. Today I'll explain. After this discussion, we'll start the question. Then after question, I'll explain extensively. I'll write all this. I'll write one by one section and give the perfect note for you, for perfect summary for you, right? So bear with me, right? Bear with me. I'll explain extensively. So for this step, in summary, you need, still I have not explained extensively, right? I haven't shown you the act. Fourth step is understanding whether there is a source of payment in Sri Lanka or PE, then tax liability, right? Tax liability. Tax liability means what is the tax rate? 14% or dividend 15% or exempted, right? So that's the fourth step. Then now you establish. Now let's say there is a question, you understood it is non-resident person, wrote all the other steps, then you came to conclusion that as per local law, this person is liable to 14% taxes. That's the answer you are writing. Then what else? Then you need to write, however, as per the provision of Inland Revenue, what is the provision actually? Can someone say? Can someone say what is the provision? As per provision in IRA, DTA prevail over if there is any conflict between local law and DTA, provision in DTA prevail over the IRA. That sentence you need to write, right? As per section 70, Shahan is correct. As per section 75, where there is a conflict between provisions of IRA and DTA, the DTA shall be prevail, right? That need to be written. Now, very clear, no? This is the first you written whatever they are in your IRA, then you come to DTA, right? So, as per DTA, now you reevaluate. Now, these are the proper step for you to follow when you provide tax consultancy services, right? Not only for your exam, right? These are the your exam. If you are reading answer script or whatever the other notes that you are having, that will be nonsense. But in practice, we know these are the correct step you need to follow, right? Next, you take DTA and you write that section 75. Then you take DTA. Now, what you need to look at under DTA? Reading DTA also very difficult for some student I know, and not only student, even some tax consultants also I have seen. Reading DTA is very difficult. You cannot understand anything in the DTA. We'll see whether it is difficult. I'll give shortcuts how to understand DTA also. Right? Now this is also a shortcut that I'm explaining. DTA also I'll explain some shortcut. Right. Now what's the time? Oh, 10, right? Still we haven't started the paper. We'll start paper. Right. DTA, you have to look at first. Now again you have to revisit whether this person become resident or not. Not article, yeah. Whether this person become resident, such correct, person become resident or not. Whether this person has a PE or not. That's the second thing, right? Then if there is, now we determine there is a source of payment. Now we understand what is the nature of source payment, right? Whether it is a dividend, fee for technical service, fee for other services, interest, likewise we understand. So next, under which article is relevant for this type of service? Which article is relevant for this type of service? Then refer that article and see whether under that article any relief is available. Relief, right? That may be exemption, exclusion, or reduction of tax payment. That relief you need to apply. Let's say local law say 40% tax, but DTA say it is 15% tax. Then what you do? Give me an answer. Here, now you went to DTA. Lower rate, yeah, correct. Lower rate you need to apply, right? DTA, no, Madhush, DTA prevail, right? But DTA are for the purpose of granting relief. Under local law, if it is 14%, and as per DTA, if it is 15%, you need to apply local law, not DTA. Why? DTA cannot be more burdensome than the local law. That is the tax principle, right? DTA provision cannot be more burdensome than the local law. Remember that, right? Why I am saying where it is mentioned? It is mentioned when we are reading the DTA. That's everyone getting this wrong, even tax consultant, right? In the first paragraph of DTA, it said this agreement is being entered for the purpose of avoiding double taxation, not to impose taxes. If your local law say it is 14%, DTA 15%, it means that DTA impose additional 1% tax. That cannot be happen. Right? Janaka, do you understand? Charge DTA, what do you mean by charge DTA? Do you mean that 15% should be applied? Yanaka? Isn't I expect actually everyone can speak. Yanaka is saying 15% should be applied. So is there any basis on that, Janaka? You can explain? I think you can unmute yourself. Let me check with our institute. So anyone else? Anyone else thinking that 15% should be applied while local law say 14%, DTA say 15%? Anyone else thinking like that? What about Madhush? So we have students. What about Fatima? Fatima Zain. I am not whether I'm pronouncing it correctly. Fatima? Hasini? Right. So Kirtana, she's saying 14%. So it's like that. Uh, not actually not domestic should be applied first, right? What you need to understand is DTA are only for the purpose of giving relief, reduction, or exemption, right? If DTA has higher taxes, you cannot apply it, right? There's no provision in law saying that. In DTA, it does not say. In DTA wording, if you read it, when there is a tax, that should be more than 10%. Likewise, the DTA are worded, right? That could not be more than 10%. It will say that could not be more than 10%. So it could be below 10%, right? If you read the DTA. So Janaka, I hope you will understand that provision. That's very clear in the law, right? Are you clear on Janaka? Still, there is an argument, or are you clear on that? Janaka? Right. Okay. We'll move on. So DTA, now you understand. That's the summary. Now let's go to our question, right? I'll share the screen. Janaka is saying, no, sir, please explain, right? Uh, Let me explain using this paper. Will be given the DTA, right? Right. So you read, Janaka, this article 12, some DTAs, right? Some DTAs mentioned. I don't know whether in the DTA is mentioned. Here. However, such royalty or fees for technical service may also be taxed in the contracting state in which they arise, and according to the laws of the state. But if the beneficial owner of the royalty or fees of technical service is resident of the other contracting state, the tax or charge shall not exceed 10%. Right? It says not exceed. You cannot impose higher taxes than 10%, but you can impose low taxes, 8% taxes, right? Hope now you are clear on that. That's the wording in the law, wording in the DTA, right? Everyone is clear on that. So, Janaka, shall we move? Right. Okay, we'll move. Hope others are correct, clearly understood that, right? Kirtina, you are correct, no? Right. Now, we'll come to question. What in reading this question, non-resident person question, what you should do? Right now, the problem in answering this question is one part you are not aware about the correct steps, right? I given the simple steps, but I'll give the more complicated step later, right? Next part, at the exam, you are not reading this correctly, right? Now, this is a big story, no? That's the problem. That examiner gives this question as a big story. That's the next question that you are having, right? I cannot see the some messages that okay, Janaka said okay. Right. You can see the screen, right? Everyone can see the screen. Can everyone see the screen? There was a yes, okay. Right. Now, when you are reading this question, you better take a rough sheet and write what is there in this question in a graph, right? In a graph. In our class, I have written many graph when we explaining question, right? So that's the way that you can easily understand it. Otherwise, you have to read again and again. Every point you need to read again and again if you haven't taken clear picture on this question. So first we will take a uh, read one by one. Nero Engineering Lanka, Nero Lanka was incorporated in Sri Lanka as a fully owned subsidiary of Nero India. Now there are two companies, Nero Lanka and uh, hope you can see all the screen. Excel one also. I'm changing one time to time, right? Nero India and Nero Sri Lanka, right? Are you clear? Nero Designing, Nero Designing Private Limited is a separate company incorporated in India. India. India as a subsidiary of Nero India. Nero India. That's a subsidiary of Nero India. Can everyone see the screen? India to support in structural and interior design of the project undertaken by the parent company. So his business is structural and interior design, Nero design, right? Nero Lanka was awarded contract in Sri Lanka to construct a mixed development project. Right. Next one. So from each para, you need to write develop your graph, right? Mixed development project. There is a mixed development project given to in Sri Lanka. Development project in Sri Lanka. Which will include commercial properties as well as residential apartment. Commercial properties. So you have commercial properties as well as residential apartments, right? So students, bear with me that I not explained entirely the every provision under non-resident taxation, right? There are very important provisions that we haven't discussed. For DTA, you can apply DTA only if there is a underlying ownership of your company that is more than 50% by a individual in other individual resides in other contracting state. Those are very important. Nowadays, between these IRD officers and tax consultants, those are argued, right? So in your exams, those points that we are arguing in the industry could be tested, right? We are in the industry, we are arguing those points. Someone in this industry, preparing your paper. So definitely those things can be tested, right? So bear with me. After doing this question, we'll understand all this process. So they have two projects. Nero Lanka commenced construction work in April 2022 and completed the project with a period of 18 months. Commenced April 2022. So it's commenced April 2022 and 18 months. 18 months. 18 months mean what is the date? 1 year. 1 year means April, then March 31st, 2023 for 1 year. Then another 6 months. 6 months means September 30th, 2023. Right? So this is the timeline. Right. Next one. Complete within 18 months. 18 months. 18 months to complete. Right. The project was split into two components and accordingly two separate contract agreements were entered into by the client with Nero Lanka and Nero Design. Separate contract with Nero Lanka and Nero Design, right? So there is a separate contract with Nero Design. Separate contract. Separate contract, right? Next one. The structural and interior design part. The structural and interior design part was handled by Nero Design, and the service were provided remotely. Service were provided remotely. Design provide services remotely, right? They are providing services remotely. Nero Design. We will write here. Right. The building, construction, installation, and other implementations were covered under the other contracting, which was signed with Nero Lanka. They are providing consulting, installation, and other implementation work. They are doing, right? After considering the complexity of the project, Nero Lanka decided to obtain support of its parent company in India for certain supervisory work and coordination related to equipment and material supply of the project. This Nero India also provides some services. So I'll take it here. Nero India. Nero India provide what? Supervised work and coordination related to equipment and material supply. They provide this service. At your exam, you don't need to write every of this word, right? Just simple understanding, whatever word that simply understood by you, you can write, right? So now this picture is very clear for you, no? If you write a picture like this. So student, in tax consultancy also, when we provide a tax advice, right? We draw pictures like that. That's how we understand cases, right? Otherwise, it's very complicated. Tax cases are very complicated. If you need to understand, you need to write it. Case one by one, you first write it and draw some graph. That's how you understand the case. If you understood the case, answer is there, right? So there's a famous saying, if you can write the question well, then answer is there. If you write this question like this, answer is very clear, right? If you don't write like this, it's very complicated. That's why everyone saying this question is very complicated. As agreed with the client, the value of work to be carried out offshore, outside Sri Lanka, and onshore within Sri Lanka were separately identified in service contract. During the project, Nero India allocated two of its employees to the project. Allocated two employees to the project. That's very important. You know why. Allocated two employees who visited site Sri Lanka from time to time, carry out these two employees stayed in Sri Lanka for period exceeding 7 months. That's very important, right? So can someone say why it is important? Why it's important? Yeah, Madhu saying it's P. Yeah, Tilina also saying it's P. Correct. Sashini is saying to check residency. Residency, what we are looking at. Earlier I explained whether incorporation, whether company is incorporated in Sri Lanka or whether there is a place of effective management and control. That's for a company. Yeah, you might be saying for employees. For employee side, yeah, correct. For employee side, if they are staying more than 7 months, they are physically living in Sri Lanka for 7 months. Therefore, this employee could be resident. Yeah, you have noted that area, I think. Shashini, good. But let's see whether it is applicable to. Let's see whether it is applicable to our question. Yeah, there's a concern like that. But remember that That's good. Next one. Given below is detailed breakdown of the contract and pricing of each component of work separately. Now they said every component, local and outside Sri Lanka component can be separately identified. No, here they say. Now it has been given, right? Uh, Service contract. Now it's given clearly what are the foreign part, what are the local part. Consulting service for design work, that is a foreign part. Construction work, local part. Equipment and material, that's foreign. Supervisory work, that's also foreign, right? Then you can write it on this graph also. In our graph also here you can write it, but for the sake of time I'm keeping it there because it's very clear in this table, right? I'm not taking time to write this again because it's very clear in the table also. Designing work and the supply of equipment and material were completed during first 12 months. Designing work and the supply of equipment and material were completed during the first 12 months. Yes. As at 31st March, as at this date, 30% is completed. As at this date, this 30% is completed. Nero India has identified the cost involved in the project as follow. Now there are cost, right? Cost for the project. Salaries to the related investment general law. Now India, this Nero India, they also involved in this project. For their cost, this is their cost. Salaries to staff. We assume this is their cost, right? General overheads. It's given. Now it's clear in table, therefore I'm not going to write it. Right. Then the exchange rate given to convert these USD rates, right? Extract of articles given. Normally examiner gives it. Now comes to this picture again. Can you see a whole picture? Can everyone see it? Yes, still the same can see. Right. Now Now think about this project, this picture, right? Now it's very clear. This question is now very clear for you. Now, who are the parties? There are three parties: Nero India, Nero Design, Nero Lanka. What could be the question for this non-resident person? Definitely, what could be the question? Determining the Nero or Nero Design or India's tax liability. This is non-resident person question. No, normally first question is that. So that could be the question. So now, but just by looking at this, you know the answers. You should know the answers. What are the answers? Tell me. Now you cleared your question. That's mean you know the answer. I say, if you know the question well, that's mean you know the answer. Now you understood the case well. There is a mixed development project and three party involved in that, and there are certain items given for that. Now question could be whether this person or this person taxable in Sri Lanka. That's the simple question that examiner is asking for. Every question, no. In practice also, that's the question, whether it is taxable or not. So how you write it? Now take this information from your question, take this simple information and follow that structure. Now you don't want to look at question even, right? Now you know the answer. Am I correct? Can you look at this and understand there what is the question? Can anyone? Yes. Let's see the question. Discuss whether Niro India is required to pay taxes in Sri Lanka. Support your answer citing statutory provision. Right. Niro India. First thing. Niro India. This person. Now, can anyone say whether this person is liable to tax in Sri Lanka or not? Now, what time consuming is writing the answer. But in your head, when you look at this structure, you should know the answer. You don't have time to think at the exam whether this person liable to tax in Sri Lanka or not. Right. Right. Janaka is saying liable. Tilina also saying liable. Right. Correct. So why you are saying liable? Now you need to write that answer. Even though you know the answer, now it's a presentation. How you write? First step. First step. Resident, non-resident. Non-resident status. Second step. Second step. This coming under section 69. Resident or non-resident. You need to write this, right? In simple sentence. Don't waste your time. If this is there, you will getting full marks. Second step. Section 4. Sources in SL will be liable to tax. Next step. What are the sources? Sources. In that case, you need to see whether there is a PE in Sri Lanka, right? Whether there is a PE in Sri Lanka. That also need to determine. If there is a PE, that is the part that you need to analyze most. If there are PE case, you need to analyze that part most, right? Can someone say whether there is a PE in Sri Lanka for Niro India or whether there is no PE? Is there a PE or not? PE, yes, they have employed their staff. Yeah, Madhush, correct, correct, correct. They have personals in Sri Lanka. How you say it? Under local law, you firstly look at, right? Under local law, you firstly look at. Still, we are at local law. Local law, section 195. Now, when this paper is setting up, there was a different definition. Now, there is a different definition. Now, what they are saying, if there is a fixed place of business in Sri Lanka, however the duration is, then there is a P in Sri Lanka. And further, it says if there is a non-resident person, um, DTA also prevail, right? DTA also prevail. So in this case, there is a PE. There is a PE, right? There is a PE. So after that, you can write. After that also you can write DTA prevail. Under which section? Section 75. That you can determine where to write this, right? Section 75, DTA prevails. DTA prevails. Then as per DTA, under DTA, what you look at? Whether this is resident or non-resident. Non-resident, right? But in exam, you don't need to write every thing, right? Every this step you don't need to write under DTA. Now, earlier we determined no, under local law, the same thing will be there. This will be a resident. Same thing. Now, two different laws, right? Local law, same step, DTA, same step. Whether this person resident or not. This is a non-resident person, right? Then whether there is a PE or not. This PE part you have to take in your exam, not in practice, right? Most of the time, this PE part you have to write using your DTA provisions rather than Inland Revenue Act, right? Remember, that's for your exam. But in practice, you have to look at both. But in your exam, you firstly you more focus on DTA provision on PE. As per DTA, there is a PE. There is a PE. So how PE getting taxed? Article 7. Article 7. That's a business income. Article 7. Income, gains and profit. Gains and profit attributable to PE will be taxable in Sri Lanka. Is there anyone who has done this paper earlier? Is there anyone who has done this 2023 paper earlier? December paper? No. If no, no, say no. Okay, Shashini haven't done. No, anyone hasn't done, I think. Okay. Why you are not doing papers? Today onwards do the papers, right? Don't focus on your theories. Now you have action, you are taking that action. What you need to learn is how you refer that. I have explained. You go to YouTube and watch my videos, right? And see how to refer that. That's only I teach. In my practice also, there are a lot of trainees coming. For them also, I'm not going to teach the entire action one by one. But what I'm teaching is how to refer that, right? Then you need to practice questions. That's the most effective method of learning, right? Now don't forget about all your theories. Don't go and look at your just do what is your asked by your lectures also. But my recommendation is now forget about your theories. Not forgetting, keep it side and focus on papers, right? Now on you watch free videos, and if you wish you can take other explanation in my videos also, right? Here there is a gains attributable to if there's P, gains attributable to P should be taxed, right? And then there will be a normal company tax, right? Normal company tax, right? Whenever you apply DTA, you need to write that article also. Which article? Which section? Section which says that DTA can apply anti-avoidance section. We call this as anti-avoidance section. DTA can apply only if there is a 50% or more underlying ownership with individuals who are resident of other contracting state. However, in this question, it is not given. That means there is no importance on that provision. If you can write it, that's better, right? So that's also you need to write. Then if DTA is there, now you P is there, most probably examiner is asking to calculate income tax liability and remittance tax liability, right? So that also you can learn. You watch my YouTube video. We have done a comprehensive study on this remittance tax case and this non-resident tax part also, right? You can easily learn there, right? That's the simple understand. Now let's see our answer script. See, These are only suggested solution. I have seen sometimes uh, there are different views, right? In taxation student, I have seen if I ask same thing from 10%, there could be 10 views, right? 10 views. This is only one view, but in the exam you can write your view, right? Let's say tax of software, payment to a software. I myself say it is not taxable. Someone say it is taxable. Departments also say taxable. Likewise, there are different concerns. You don't have to stick into these answers. What you need to stick into your law and your understanding of the law, right? Right. For the provision of the Inland Revenue Act, as amended, tax app tax applicable in Sri Lanka per person is decided based on the residency status. See, first line of answers. Based on residency status, you decide tax. Residency status. That need to be written in your language. Don't need to write this. And in your language. According here, section given. You don't need to write this subsection, but better to write the main section. Section I, there are several criteria that need to be satisfied in order for company to be considered as a resident for income tax purpose. Since Niro India and Niro Design are incorporated outside Sri Lanka, and the other criteria given in even section are also not met by both companies, these two companies have not been considered as, have to be considered as non-resident for tax purpose in Sri Lanka, right? So our first step and second step, first step, first step. Simply you can write as per section 69, person become resident only if there is a incorporation in Sri Lanka or place of effective management and other criteria as stipulated. However, in this instance, Niro India does not satisfy those criteria. Therefore, Niro India does not become resident. Hence, it's a non-resident person for purpose of taxation in Sri Lanka. So you can simply write it. Right. Next one. Further per section, are you ready to stay with me for another 1 hour or 2 hours? Madhush is ready. Others? Still no okay? Okay. Others? Ladies? Ladies? No ladies. Already left. Shashini? Okay. Okay, stay with me because I am explaining other parts. That's the most important part. I'll give clear sections reference. That's most important. I want to give it to you, right? Otherwise, I like to give it to you. Otherwise, it's not because I want you to stay with me, but I want to give that to you. That's with that you will write a better answer, right? I'll touch every area so you don't miss anything in your question. Further, per section 4B of the IRN. Now second step. Earlier first step. Now this is first step. Then second step. What is second step? Second step we wrote here. Section 4. Section 4. Section 69, Section 4. Further, per Section 4B of IRA, assessable income of non-resident person is equal to the person income from employment, business, investment or other sources for that year to the extent that the income arises in or derived from a source in Sri Lanka. Right. Now they have written this commonly to both companies, right? You have to decide that at the exam. Now question is asking both together now. So to save your time, you can write this explanation for both companies together. Niro design also same thing, same section 69, section 4 conclusion will be applied for this person also. Right? So that will save your time. For both companies, you write this section 69 for separate together. Right. Second step done. Next, what is the step? Identify whether there is a source in Sri Lanka or and P in Sri Lanka. Right? Whether Nero India is required to pay tax in Sri Lanka. Your title, right? Now the question, that's the direct question. What is asked in your question? Whether Nero India is required to pay taxes in Sri Lanka. Method of writing could be different from person to person, right? You don't have to follow this structure, but you need to write the important point I mentioned, I given to you. If a non-resident person receive any payment in respect of activity conducted. Now, how you do this? Now, this third step, identifying source in Sri Lanka or not, whether there is a source in Sri Lanka or not. How you do it? This is the consolidated version of Inland Revenue Act that I downloaded from their website. That's easy to use. Here, see, content, resident and sources. Resident person, section 69. Change of residency, sourcing income and quarantining of foreign. This is also very important area, student, right? This time examiner can test because it was discussed in the industry widely, right? There are cases. Now IRD has taken some views that in the industry that been discussed. I don't know whether that's you learned at your classes or not. But in our classes, I'll try to give some point for pre-seen from this area. Quarantining of foreign losses, right? Many tax consultants even don't understand that part. Yeah, right. Then sources of income and quarantine of foreign losses. Sources directly to be included and amounts to be deducted, right? These all sections are related to sources, right? So all these sections discuss sources in Sri Lanka or not, right? For if you are providing tax advice, all these sections are very important for tax advisors, right? But for your exam, mostly this section is important. Foreign source, they are saying whatever does not become a local source become a foreign source. Now this is sources of payment. See that the following payment shall have source in Sri Lanka. This is only payment, right? Let's come to section 72. And amount directly included in calculating income shall be a source in Sri Lanka. Here also there are sources given, right? Case by case, you need to understand all these sections. But in most cases, being tax consultant, we know now this case referred to this kind of an income. Therefore, we have to look at this section, right? Right. Here, firstly, you look at this one. This section 73. Under section 73, students, everything given, every sources of payments, right? So correct word is source of payments given. Whether if it is employment, whether it's a source in Sri Lanka or not. How employment becomes source in Sri Lanka. That's also very complicated area that many are getting wrong. I have seen in previous period uh, in practice, right? Everything I'm saying in practice, right? This was discussed. This employment part discussed extensively. How employment becomes source in Sri Lanka or source outside Sri Lanka. Employment in Sri Lanka, wherever the paid, right? If so, what is employment in Sri Lanka? I have seen some tax consultants are trying to say that if you have entered into agreement with foreign person, foreign company, that employment is not in Sri Lanka. Some are saying, right? I have seen few years back, right? People are saying if you have entered into agreement with the foreign company, that means you are employed by foreign company. That means you are not employed in Sri Lanka, right? Is that correct, student? What do you think about that? By reading this section, you need to understand how to read this IRA, right? That's very interesting. Very interesting when it comes to I'll do not this question. I'll do a next question and next non-resident. That's very important question. Almost everything covered under that question, right? That's a past paper question. I'll do it in next session, or I'll try to do pre-scenes on next sessions, right? So, do you think if the contract is with foreign company, is it a Sri Lankan source in Sri Lanka or not? Just try to understand apart from our question. Samira is saying yes. What is for my question? Question now or earlier? Anyone can say no. Here in Sri Lanka means exercise in Sri Lanka, right? Exercise in Sri Lanka, in Sri Lanka, employed in Sri Lanka. If you are exercising your employment in Sri Lanka, it is a source in Sri Lanka. Now, likewise, there are different type of services given: employment, dividend, interest, royalty, technical service or similar service payment, right? Likewise, there are many type of services given. You need to understand all this type and remember for your exam, right? So what you need to do is you go to your facts and see whether there is what kind of income that this person is deriving, this Niro, what kind of income, what kind of service they provide. It is supervisory work and coordination related to equipment and material. So under what section it's liable, right? You need to understand that. So if there are students, this provision is very important under this section 73. Payments not mentioned in above, that's catch-all question, catch-all provision, right? If anything does not mention above, then it's fall under this provision. So this is very important. Most of income coming under this. I can see time to time there is a message. Yes, Ashini, for what you mean 183 days should be considered? Yeah, we'll discuss, right? 100 and yeah, you are correct. You are coming in correct path. We need to consider that. But for before that, we will analyze IRA provisions, right? Payments not mentioned in the above paragraph made in respect of acquisition of domestic asset, incurring of domestic liability or realization of such an asset or liability received in respect of activity conduct or forbearance from conducting activity in Sri Lanka, except in relation to resident person, to the extent attributed to foreign permanent establishment, and in relation to non-resident person, in relation to non-resident person, to the extent attributable to Sri Lankan permanent establishment or any other activity, including sales in Sri Lanka. Now, there are this clause and it says if there is a Sri Lankan permanent establishment, this clause apply, right? So let's see. Here, let's see our answer. if a non-resident person receive any payment in respect of activity conducted or forbearance from conducting activity in Sri Lanka to the extent attributable to Sri Lankan permanent establishment here, or any other activity of the same or similar kind as that conducted by non-resident person through a Sri Lankan permanent establishment, it will create a source in Sri Lanka. Right. Now, this is the source in Sri Lanka. To be a source in Sri Lanka, there should be a PE for this person. Right. So now we are coming to Shashini's point. But Shashini is mentioned. Yeah. Now we have to see whether there is a PE or not. Right. Section 195, Common Interpretation section, provide what is a PE. Right. I think this definition has amended. It is there under section 195. There's a line being drawn. No, I don't know how to remove the green line. Means any business connection or fixed place of business through which the business of enterprise is wholly or partly carried out, irrespective of the number of days of such business being carried out in Sri Lanka. Business of the enterprise is wholly or partly carried out. So this is a very dangerous definition. Almost everything coming under this definition, right? If there is a DTA only, you can go to more less severe definition, right? So almost everything covers. So this, as per this article, this definition, there are business connection, right? Business is carried out. Their employees are here. So they have conducted their business in Sri Lanka. So there is a PE, right? There is a PE, and it doesn't matter what is the duration. Now Sachin is concerned 183 days. But for local law, it doesn't matter whether it is 183 days or less than that. It's fixedly, not just coming one day and going, right? You have to do is fixed nature business here, right? That's the importance. When it comes to this interpretation, it's very judgmental. Arbitrary interpretation can be given to these things, right? But in DTA, those are very strict. Right. Let's see. Therefore, if such business activity is carried out by non-resident person through a PE in Sri Lanka, that non-resident person has a source in Sri Lanka and is liable to pay tax in Sri Lanka. Right. So there is a PE, so liable to pay tax in Sri Lanka. Still, we are looking at IRA, right? So as per IRA, it is determined that tax they are liable to tax in Sri Lanka. Now there is a PE, right? If there is a PE, what are the other sections that are applicable? Still, we are at the local law, our steps. Now, what is the next step that I said? You need to see whether their business is taxed at what rate. If there is a PE, right? What rate? Normally company now, currently for your exam, it is 30%, unless it is tobacco, likewise, special cases, right? Or foreign sources, it's taxed at different rates. It's exempted sometimes for your exam. Um, so now there is a PE. What are the tax rate? 30% company tax rate and remittance tax 14%. So you can write it also. Yeah, Sachin is saying correct. And more importantly, you can write another part, right? Under section, as I remember, let's say section 76. Let's say section 76, yes. Yeah, section 76, I think. Let's see. Transparency section. Here. Any income, gain, or profit arising, derived, or accruing from any loss incurred or any loss incurred in any transaction between a permanent establishment and its head office or other related branches in Sri Lanka or elsewhere, in which case the permanent establishment shall be treated as distinct and separate entity. This is very important, right? So now for everything there should be a law provision, no? For your, you need to understand, for everything what you are doing with this tax, there should be a provision in the law. Now I am saying if there is a PE, you consider it as a company. Why I am saying that? You should question me when I am saying it. If you are a good student, you should question me why you are saying it should be a separate company, like a separate company, right? In the law, nowhere I say it like that. But why I am saying that? So this is the reason, right? If there is a PE, law provides that it is a separate entity. Entity also defined, right? It's a separate, distinct and separate entity, right? So you don't tax other your parent or other related person together with the PE. You tax only the PE's portion. Income attributable to PE. You consider now it's a branch office, no? Branch office may have transaction with your head office. That's a transaction with same person. You take your money from right pocket to put it in your left pocket. That's the transaction. So ultimately there is no transaction. However, for tax purpose, you deem that your right pocket and left pocket is two different persons. Correct? Are you clear on that? If you want, you can write that part also. If you are writing more and more of these points, that means you are getting more marks. Right? If you are targeting a price, definitely you need to write all these things, then you are definitely getting price, right? I'm pretty sure on that. If you are getting price just by listening, if you are listening this session today, you might not be registered for our lectures in our institute, but just drop me a message, you written what I said, right? I see that Janaka has dropped some message, but I couldn't read it. No, I can't see it. Okay, that's a one part. Now still we are at our local law. Everything under local law we discuss, right? If there's PE, that remittance tax also applicable under section 62. You need to remember everything under section 62. There are exemption to remittance tax also, right? understand that that has been tested and it could be tested for your exam also. Next one. Now let's come to the DTA provision, right? Now see, I have taken more than 2 hours to discuss one single question, right? So that's how you need to understand question. You can't understand question just by referring to answer and just by reading it or just by saying that there is a P like that, right? You need to follow everything. In my classes, you may be surprised that one question being discussed for hours, right? Next one. Now comes to DTA, right? When comes to DTA, what you write? As per section 75, DTA prevails, right? That need to be written. Let's see whether in your suggested solution it is written. Since Sri Lanka has entered into double tax agreement with it, the relevant provision of the same have to be considered when determining whether Nero India has created a P in Sri Lanka. Alright, they haven't given the provision, but they have mentioned that DTA also need to be considered, right? But in your exam, you clearly write under section 75, if there are a conflict, DTA prevails. So we have to look at provision in DTA as well. Under DTA, what you look at, whether this person become resident or not, whether this person has a PE or not. Then what are the relief under each type of sources, right? What sources applicable to this person, and based on that sources, what are the relief, right? Those 3 steps you need to follow. However, I haven't seen your exam, that is for tax advisory services, right? But your exam, that all 3 steps hasn't followed. What your exam follow is only the following the PE part, and whether the source is there are relief for the source of income, right? Only those points you will be following for your exam, right? Remember that if you take DTA, first one you need to write whether there is a PE under DTA and whether your income type is taxable or whether there is any relief under DTA, right? Sri Lanka has entered to, we read it. For Article 5.3 of DTA between Sri Lanka and India, one way of creating PE is meeting the criteria set out down on construction or service PE, right? So it's given under DTA. If you want, we can go to DTA and see. Now we are coming to Shashini's point. Right. Article 5. For the purpose of agreement, the term permanent establishment means you at the exam you don't read everything, right? You don't read actually DTA. You should remember. Now Shashini is remembering if there are employees that is staying more than 183 days, there is a PE in Sri Lanka. She's remembering. Likewise, you need to remember these points, not word by word, but roughly. You need to make a summary. You take Article 5, what are the PE points? That's all, right? Very easily you can create summary. For the purpose the permanent means the. However, whenever there is a PE part, you need to write this wording. Fixed place of business through which the business of enterprise all your partly correct. This is for local law and DTA. This is the definition that is everywhere for PE, right? This definition you need to write. That's the wording that gives marks, right? Fixed place of business through which the business of enterprise wholly or partly carried on, right? That need to be written. That is the PE. That is the definition for PE. Then they provide what includes a PE, a branch, an office, likewise a place of management, likewise, right? So you can say there is no office, then hence under this there is no PE. However, you don't waste your time writing all these things, right? You at the exam don't waste your time by writing all these things. Directly go to your point and write it. Whether there is a PE, if there is a PE under one section, you write that section only, right? Don't wait. Simply for other section, you can say others are not applicable, only this section applicable. Likewise, save your time. That ability will be coming if you are practicing past papers only. A building site or construction. Now we are in construction. This Indian, we are looking at Nero India. They are in construction site. A building site or construction, installation or assembly project or drilling rig, supervisory actor in connection therewith constitutes a permanent establishment only if such site, project or activity lasts more than 183 days. Right. This is construction, installation or assembly project. Now, is this Nero or this Nero Design or Nero India is doing that work? Construction, installation or assembly project? No. Construction, installation and implementation done by Nero Lanka. Right? This activity does not done by Nero India. Correct? Are you agree with me? Are you sleeping? Everyone sleeping? Okay. So you are with me. So let's see whether your examiner taken that part. A building, construction or installation or assembly project or drilling rig or supervisory activities in connection therewith constitute a permanent establishment only if such site, project or activity lasts more than 83 days, right? At the exam, there are two methods. Either you can write this simply or at the exam mindset, you are not able to summarize this simply. Then you can write what is given, only the applicable part, right? This is not applicable, then you don't need to write. Next. Next one, the furnishing of service including consultancy services by enterprise to employees or the operational or other personnel engaged by the enterprise for such purpose constitutes a permanent establishment, but only where activities of that nature continue for same or connected project within the contracting state for a period or period aggregating more than 90 days within any 12 months period. Right. So this is the part that applicable for your case. Right. See, now you are in the consultancy service here, supervisory work and coordination, right? And design, this person also in that same design consultancy services, right? And this India, Nero India specifically provide their personnel that stays more than 7 months. More than 7 months means actually more than 183 days. Here, if your personal stay in another country more than 90 days, then you are considered having PE in that other country. Are you clear on that? Up to now, are you clear? Up to this point, are you clear? Shani is saying, Janaka is saying no. So Janaka, Shani is saying clear. Yeah, Samira is saying clear. So Janaka, drop me a message. I'll help you on this, right? I will not take others' time, but I'll help you on it. I'm not going to give up on you, so you can call me, right? Call me and let's try to understand this. Right, Janaka, are you okay? Right. So okay, Janaka. So you contact me. I'll explain you how this is happening. Right. Now we read this part also. Let's go. Based on the information provided, two employees of Niro India has provided supervisory activities and coordination work related to equipment and material sourcing for the project. And they have stayed in Sri Lanka for a period of more than 183 days within 12 months period. So even though it is meant on 183, what is the criteria? 90 days. That's depend, right? You cannot remember 90 days. Different DTS has different days, right? Right, Shashini? You cannot remember it as 183 days, right? I have seen some DTS, it says 183 days, but this DTA, it says 90 days, right? If examiner gives you only, she has, people has stayed only for 100 days, then you write it as not PE, right? Because you are remembering it as 183 days. Don't remember like that. You have to refer the DTA, right? After considering the above, Niro India created P in Sri Lanka through its employee under code A, right? Not A, actually B, right? Uh, the income tax liability PE has to be calculated based on Article 7, business profit of the DT, Article 7. So PE means you are conducting business activities in Sri Lanka. PE means you are conducting activities in Sri Lanka. That comes under Section 73 1M, right? That's mean your business profit. If you are conducting activities in Sri Lanka, that's mean your business profit, right? You are coming to M because your source of payment does not satisfy any other classification, right? It does not become employment. It does not become a dividend. It does not become interest. It does not become fees for technical service, but any other activity conducted by PE. Therefore, it's coming as a business income, right? So that part is very important to understand. This is the most difficult part when we see in practice. Many tax consultant and many accountant also try to understand. This is the interpretative part, right? If you can understand your service nature, then you can play around these provisions, right? You can ask them to not to tax, right? If you are understanding your nature of service. For example, famous case is payment to a software. Payment to a software, right? Let's say, what are the software that you are using? Uh, Google services, let's say, right? Those are services, right? Services. Now there are arguments saying it is a royalty or a service fee, business income, right? That Google is doing it as their main business, then it is their business income. So you need to understand correct classification. That's the part you are getting marks, right? When there is an income for a company, you need to understand what type of income is this, right? For this Niro India, that is their business income. No, it is not their dividend income. It is not their interest income, right? It is their business income. Their business is providing this consultancy services. So it comes as a business income. For business income, what article applying in the DTA? Article 7, right? Yeah, Sachin is saying it correct, right? The profit of an enterprise of a contracting state shall be taxable only in that state. Now, Article 7 provide. Now, do you know how to read this DTS? I have seen in practice some staff. in places I work that they say they are not understanding these provisions. I don't think for your level you can't understand. But there are some tax consultants also they can't understand. Can anyone see this? Read this. Read this and understand. Is it difficult for you to understand this? If it is difficult, I'll teach you how to do it. If it is not difficult, I'll skip. Is it difficult for you to understand DTA, reading the DTA? Reading and understanding. This Dr. Message. Not difficult. So no need to explain that part, no? Okay, I'll skip that. Shani is saying difficult. Shashini is, can you explain? Oh, Sugat also saying, can you explain? Okay. So when you are reading DTA student, now you have to assume that you are the foreign person, right? When you are reading DTA, you have to assume you are the foreign person. Why? We are looking at foreign person's tax liability, right? Foreign person. So contracting state, when you read the DTA, contracting state means foreign person's country, right? Foreign person's country. Remember that when you read the DTA, remember that. Not a foreign person, person whom's tax liability. Now, when you are providing tax side, you will be assessing your liability as Sri Lankan person when you do business in another country, right? So every time understand person whose tax liability is assessed is the contracting state, right? Contracting state equals whose tax liability being assessed. A country in which person whose tax liability being assessed, that person's country, right? Is that can you remember that part, right? So then take your pencil and read one by one. The profit of an enterprise of a contracting state, right? So contracting state means what? Contracting state means what? India, correct. We are we are assessing tax liability of Indian person. So contracting state means India. Shall be taxable only in that state. Only in this state. Right? That income shall be taxable only in that state. That means only in India. The profit of enterprise of India shall be taxable only in India, unless the enterprise carries on business in other country. If India is contracting state, other contracting state means Sri Lanka, right? Sri Lanka. So if you know these two words, now reading is very easy. You taken my tip? Have you taken my tip? Yeah. Now is it easy? Now you know. Now I have given the shortcut. Now there are no more struggle when you read in this law, right? Not only for you, I have seen CFOs, head of finance, no one can understand this, right? No one could understand this, but this is the tip, right? Contracting state means foreign person's country. So you write everywhere contracting state means you cut off this word in your exam, you cut this contracting state, write foreign country's country, right? That's how you do it. For other contracting state, you put Sri Lanka. Then it's very easy for you to understand ETA. It's difficult because this contracting state and other contracts is getting jumbled in your mind. That's why it's difficult, right? Now I have given you the shortcut. That's how you remember everything, right? The profit of an enterprise of India shall be taxable only in India unless the enterprise carries business in Sri Lanka through a permanent establishment situated therein. So what does it say? Profit of Indian company will be taxable only in India. However, if there is a PE business conducted in Sri Lanka through a PE, then that will be taxable in Sri Lanka. Now, is it easy or not? Very easy or not? Yeah, Madhush is saying yes, very, very helpful. What about others? Still, it is difficult, or you need other methods? Children, we are living with these DTAs, these act, not only Sri Lankan, right? We are looking at every world. If you refer many acts, we are referring. So these are very bread and butter for us, right? So you take every possible thing from us, right? From us for your examination and for your practical life. When I'm teaching, sometimes I'm delivering more insights for your practical life also, your career, right? Sometimes lot of interpretation that will earn millions of money, right? If this interpretation you applied in practice as a tax consultant, you will earning millions of money. But when I'm teaching, I'm explaining everything that I can. I'm not keeping this student. This tax field is very confidential area. No? We are earning money with our knowledge. No, not like accounting. You are accounting. You are delivering services and earning. You do some system implementation. You prepare accounts and you are earning. Right? That's another part. But with tax, how we earning? There is a routine part that filing, return, everything. But when you come to that advanced level, it's not the routine part, right? For your knowledge, you are earning. Therefore, I have seen this knowledge in taxation very hidden. People do not share it. Even you are learning from lecturers, practice in I haven't seen practice in lecture. Right? If you are learning from them, they might not be sharing everything because this knowledge is very hidden. They earn money from this. If someone knows this provision, other don't like to share it, right? Sharing the surface level, but deep interpretative level is not sharing. I have seen this in your answer sheets also. I'm very sad to say that some provisions has been answers has been explained, given, suggested solution given. Those are surface level answers. So I'm very sad that our chartered accountants are very we are developing chartered accountant with low level of knowledge on this area, right? Because we provide what IRD is saying. That's not necessary. Even you are following tax courses, they are the IRD officers are teaching now sometimes. That views are sometimes very surface level students, right? But if you learn from even Sivanesen sir was teaching previously, he has good understanding. I also learned from him. But he also sometimes might not be provide these industry secrets. I'm not saying that his name. So many this profession based on some secrets, right? They don't share knowledge easily, right? So now you are clear on this. If the enterprise carries on business at aforesaid, the profit of the enterprise may be taxed in other state, but only so much of them as attributable to that permanent system. That's easy, no? So income attributable to PE will be uh, taken as a taxable income. Others are not taken. Even though these are, you see this as simple wording, the interpretation of these wordings will be very extensive, right? If you are reading OECD commentaries, UN commentaries, has anyone read the UAE OECD commentaries on model tax convention? OECD commentaries. Do you know what is that? No, no. Right. So it's good thing to read if you are in this field. If you are trying to practice in this field, you must read it, right? And recently, 2 or 3 days back, November 18, they have published November 18. They have published new version, amendment to proposed amendment to 2026 version, right? I have shared it in my LinkedIn. If you look at that, there are certain things that this these things can tested in your exam, right? These are discussed in international level. In GA Sri Lanka also we are discussing those things, right? So in that commentaries, two important points were discussed. That home office PE. Now many are working from home. Whether that working from home arrangement give rise to PE exposure, right? That's a new concept. So your exam could test on that. Read those, right? Read those. If you want that OECD commentaries, you can Google it, or else you can go to my LinkedIn page and see I have shared it, right? So that part, I hope if I was the examiner, I'll set question on that's a contemporary issues, right? That's another chapter in your exam, and it's a non-resident person tax. Now it's applicable for everywhere. Everyone working from home. Even myself sometimes working from home for foreign company. So that's a risk for that foreign company whether they create PE in Sri Lanka or not. So those areas you need to be aware. If possible, I'll do correction. I don't know whether time will permit for that. Only 1 month, no. But I'll try to do some correction at the class also. And the class will try to put some. Right. So we were at this PE part. Let's go to answer. Per 7(1) DTA, Nero India is liable to pay income tax Sri Lanka on the profit that are attributed in Sri Lanka. Right. That's conclusion we can agree on. Right. Right. Next one. Whether Nero design is required to pay income tax in Sri Lanka. Right. Nero design. What do you think about that? Nero design. Right. Now give me an answer whether this is liable to tax in Sri Lanka. Can anyone explain? No. No answers. Everyone sleeping. Everyone sleeping. Right. Madhushi is saying WST only. Yes, let's see. Let's see. Uh, what about others? Selena is saying no. No mean I don't know for which question. Whether when I'm asking whether you are sleeping, for that question answer might be no. Or for this question, whether they need to pay tax in Sri Lanka. Right here, what they are what they are doing is structural and interior design. Right. So they are non-resident. Only sources in Sri Lanka will be taxable, and uh, then you need to look at whether there is a source in Sri Lanka. For structural and interior design, what should be the source of Sri Lanka? There should be a technical service part, right? Yeah, yeah. Technical service fee. That's a technical service now. So it's coming under this, right? Technical service fee. So there is a source in Sri Lanka. So for this source, should there be a PE paid by a resident person, paid by a non-resident, paid by a resident person other than an expenditure of a business carried on by the resident person through a permanent. Now read this and understand. Now understanding law is very important, right? Reading law correctly. From next question, I'll teach that. Next question. It's very important question for non-resident person taxation. I I like that very much. It's touched every part of the non-resident taxation. Someone who has better understanding on this has prepared it, but your suggested answer made blunder on that. Right? Question is very good question. Next question that I'm going to discuss. Everything covered. But answer script, sometimes examiners take the answer script that most popular answer, right? That's how not the correct answer, but most popular answer they are taking. Here, read this: interest, charges, annuities, a royalty, technical service fee, or similar payment if paid by a resident person, right? Anyway, this is being paid by a resident person. No, here our customer is a resident person, mixed development project, resident person. He pays to Nero Design, right? Other than as expenditure of business carried on by the resident person through a permanent establishment outside Sri Lanka. This resident person should not be make the payment to his PE. That's the meaning, right? This resident person should not make the payment to his PE, his foreign PE. Here in this case, it is not like that, no. He is paying to another person, another legal person in another country, not to his own foreign PE. Here it says, other than as an expenditure of a business carried on by the resident person through a Sri Lankan permanent establishment outside Sri Lanka. So, this condition satisfied. Service technical service fee satisfied, and it's defined. So, next part. Here in this section, technical service fee means a service fee for managerial, technical or consultancy service, including fees for the provision of service of technical or other personnel. Right? So it's coming. Generally, it's coming. So if you are reading more, you can argue certain interpretation saying it's not coming under this provision. But generally, it's coming, right? In general reading, it's coming under this provision. So there is a source of payment and no requirement of having PE. So that payment, this payment from mixed development project to Nero will be liable to tax. And under which percentage? Now we are still at local law. Which percentage? What are the steps? Today you remember non-resident person, whether non-resident person, yes. Then Section 4 sources in Sri Lanka, then source of payment in Sri Lanka, then what? Tax rate. So this payment is there. Under now this payment, what is the tax rate? Service fee payment under Section 85, Section 80, yes. Section 85 1B, it is 14%, right? 14% tax. And under DTA, is there any exemption? Yeah, let's see whether DTA exemptions are there. First, let's read this. Any technical service fee or similar payment paid to resident person to a person outside Sri Lanka other than an expenditure of a business carried on by that resident person through a Permanent establishment outside Sri Lanka is deemed to have a source in Sri Lanka per section 73, same section that we referred. Per section 72, the definition part. Technical service fee means a service fee for managerial, technical or consultancy service, including a fee for the provision of service of technical or other personnel. Therefore, the fee paid for the designing of the project can be considered as a technical service fee. Yeah, designing services. Those are for you and me. We cannot do it. No, we need technical persons on that, right? Per section 85 1B of the IR, a person. Now come see all step followed. See, now I have given clear step. Now all step followed in your answer script also. In the exam, in your exam also follow all these steps. That then it's very easy for you to earn mark. Yeah, few. Yeah. Janaka is saying not liable. There could be interpretation, Janaka, but I don't know what interpretation you are applying. Is there any hint why you are saying it is not liable to tax in Sri Lanka? Shashini is saying it is royalty, not royalty, right? Design and design service. It's a consultancy service. Royalty mean what, student? Have the layman. When you need to understand tax law, you need to have layman understanding, right? I am learning tax from most of new guys, trainees, right? If someone who is not aware about tax, I am learning from them. Mostly in my field, I'm learning from them. I give them the act and ask them to read and ask the interpretation that they provide. Right. So royalty, what is the general understanding? Without memorizing all the tax law, forget all the tax law and give me explanation on royalty. Royalty means I am writing a book. I'll give it to Malpili Prakashakayo. Then I'll get the royalty when they publish each book. When they sell one book, I'll get it 50% commission. Likewise, that is royalty, right? My intellectual property has been given to them for publishing only, making copy and available to others, selling it, commercializing, right? But here it is only a service, design service. So it's a service fee, right? So Janaka is saying it is not liable. Is there any interpretation that you have applied, Janaka, to say it's not liable? Janaka is with us, right? He's not sleeping. Hi, Janaka. Right. Until Janaka's point coming, we'll learn like this. Right. However, Article 12 to 2 of DTA between Sri Lanka and the royalty and fees for technical service we are liable to tax at the rate of 10%. Maybe Sachin is saying this one, right? Royalty, but it is service for technical fees for technical services, right? It is not royalty. Under Article 12, there are two different things being taxed. One is royalty, another one is fees for technical services, right? That is not there in every DTA. This fees for technical service fee services is not there in every DTA. Some DTAs it is there, right? Uh, the important part is, student, if there is a service fee, uh, Under local law, it is taxable, no. But when there is a DTA, other than this DTAs like India, it's falling under business income, not royalty, right? It falls under business income. Service fee means you are doing it as your business. This now let's say this DTA is not an Indian DTA. This company is not in India. Let's say maybe in USA likewise. Let's say another full DTA applicable country or Singapore. Let's say then there is no provision on fees for technical service fee under there is no category of fees for technical service in that DTA. Then where this income being fallen under business income, right? Under business income it will be for. Then it will not get taxed. Maybe Janaka is referring that. However, under Indian DTA, it is getting taxed because under royalty provision, they have identified separate item called fees for technical services. Maybe Janaka is referring to that, right? But Janaka, in this case, you cannot exempt using that because this is Indian DTA. If this is not Indian DTA, this income falls under which category? Business income category. Then business income getting taxed only if there is a PE in Sri Lanka, right? That you need to understand correctly. That's the importance of classifying. I said that most important part is classifying the nature of income, right? So we classified it as service fee. Under local law, it is taxable. Then service fee we taken to DTA. DTA, what type of income is this? Is it interest? No. It is dividend? No. Is it dependent personal income? No. Is it independent personal income? No. Is it royalty? No. However, under royalty article itself, there is another clause saying fees for technical service. Then it comes under this and it is taxable at maximum rate of 10%. Do you want to read that article also? Do you want me to read that article? Right. I'm not going to read then. Janaka is saying now it's good. Janaka, you pointed out a good point, so I explained that correctly. Right. Okay. However, per Article 12.2 of DTA between Sri Lanka and India, royalty and fees for technical services are liable to tax at the rate of 10% if the beneficial owner of the royalty or fee for technical service resident in India. Right. However, such royalties of that here also it's given that beneficial owner part that is there in our anti-avoidance rule under our Inland Revenue Act also you can apply DTA benefit only if there is underlying ownership or control which is more than 50% should be with individuals who are resident in other country, right? That is also there in the DTA provision as well. However, such royalties for fees for technical service may also be taxed in the contracting state which they arise according to the laws of the state, but if the beneficial owner of the royalty or fees for technical service resident of other contracting state, the tax or charge shall not exceed 10% of the gross amount of royalties or fees for technical services. Right now they are saying it is not exceed, right? It not exceed mean if local law says it's 9%, you can apply 9%, but it cannot be more than 10%, right? Start. The term fees for technical service as used in this article means payment. These are provisions of DTA. I'm not going to explain. I asked you to whether I need to explain it, but you haven't said that I want to explain it. The terms fee for technical service as used in this article means payment of any kind other than those mentioned in Article 49 and Article 15 of agreement as consideration for managerial or technical or consultancy service, including the provision of service of technical or other personnel. Same definition. After considering it is concluded that Nero design's liability is restricted to the WST, that the project company client is liable to deduct at the rate of 10% on the payment relating to design fee made by the project company in Sri Lanka, and it will be considered as a final. Ah, remember that WS, that's very important. If you are making payment to non-resident person, usually it is final withholding payment other than for a citizen, right? Under Section 88, a non-resident person's tax will be final withholding payments, right? Right. So first part is done. 10 marks you have obtained throughout this. Maybe now we start 9, 10, 3 hours. You have taken 3 hours to get 10 marks. Like, can you take that time at exam? That much of time? No, you can't, right? You have to finish this within 20 minutes at least. 18 minutes. Per question you have 1.8 minutes per mark. So 10 marks mean 18 minutes only. So don't write too much, right? If you can prepare your speed, then that's fine. So that's done. Let's see next question. The same part, small part. Based on above, compute the income tax liability of Nero India and or Nero Design for year of 23, including remittent taxes, if any. See, let's see remittent taxes also. Someone had a question how to compute remittent taxes. Let's see. I'll take the answer script here and explain. This is a simple question. Right. Now, for whom the tax should be computed? Nero India or Nero Design? For both, right? For both, you need to compute. Right. Equipment and materials, here it's given in question. Values given in this table, right? We haven't written in our graph. Now, consultancy service for design work, that's foreign. Construction work, including local supply, equipment and material supply, 25,000. Supervisory work. So what Niro India is providing, equipment and material supply, that is 25,000. So you take exchange rate and multiply it and take the income here. Consultation and supervisory work. So they provide consultancy and supervisory work also. That that is for this consultancy. No, this one supervisory work 160, and importantly, it is given that for the year you have completed only 75%, right? So USD 120, and you apply exchange rate. These are simple computation, right? No law is being involved. Then you deduct expenses. Expenses. It was given the expenses here. We wrote it. Expenses, right? So it's given under table. Let's see. Salaries and other expense and general overhead. So you can take that. So those expenses given. Now profit, right? Profit you compute. The problem is at the time of exam, you cannot understand how to do this computation. There is no any law being involved. You don't have to refer inner revenue. Just logically understand the question. That's why this part is very important, right? So you mentioned that there are some expenses here, and income also. You know that there was a table, right? and you clearly wrote that there is a 75% completion for the year of assessment. Right. So all point you remember through that graph. That's the importance of drawing the case. That's important not only for your exam. When you provide tax advice also, you need to write it. For every tax, every simple advice, I am writing it. Right. If you are being if you are to be a tax consultant, for every single simple advice, you need to write something. Then only you can provide better advice. Taxable income there. Now this 24 part is not applicable. 5.6 into 30%. Right. 5.6 into 30%, you have to compute the value. Then your total tax liability will be, let's assume it's 5,1,512. So what is the amount? That 5.6 into 30%. What is the tax? 5.6 into 30%. 1.68. Right. Madhusha is saying 1.68. Madhush, yeah. Sorry. 1.68. So then remittent tax. Remittent tax means tax on your profit after tax, right? Profit after tax, how much? 5.6 minus 1.6 and into that 14%, right? This remittent tax, I explained with some interpretation, some method of saving tax, everything I explained. And as I remember, it should be there in the YouTube, right? You go and watch it. Right. Design fee, Nero design. They are receiving only payment. There is no payment. P, right? So they are receiving 325. It is there. It's given under the table. This one, right? 325 and WST rate is 10%. So that's the tax for Nero design. So now this question is done. So tell me now, let me have the feedback that whether non-resident person question are easy or difficult. What are the difficult part? Still, if you have difficult part, I'll address at the next question. So what are the difficult part that you are having? Is there any difficulties or do you feel that it's okay now? Non-resident person question. Do you feel that it's okay? Now, for every question, same steps. It's a matter of remembering that steps. If you are remembering it, it's very easy now. What do you think? No any feedback. No, I'm not asking feedback. I'm asking whether it's difficult for you or do you think it's easy? Now, you spend 3 hours of time. Now, no matter if you haven't learned anything from this, right? Um, what, what do you think, Sashini? Will you be able to answer this question perfectly? Okay. Much better means there are still some gray areas, right? What about others? We have so many students messaging at the beginning now. Now no one. Others are sleeping. Madhushi is sleeping. Tilina? Janaka? Janaka, what do you think? What are the areas that you didn't understood? Is there any other areas? Shishant, manageable means still you are not confident, right? So what you should do now? Now everyone say now it's better, manageable, right? So everyone has a question that is still whether you can write a perfect answer or not. Now there's a question. Yeah. As Tilina is saying, you need to practice. right? Now remember these steps. Now today's session is very important. If someone has any understanding, right? Any understanding, that person can go to exam tomorrow and earn some marks, right? Definitely he will earn some marks if that person goes to exam tomorrow, maybe after 5 days after, definitely he is getting marks, right? I'm pretty sure if he has listened to this session very carefully, I'm pretty sure at least 50% marks he will score. But for balance 50%, what you should do, you should practice this. What you should practice, not this step for reading the act, right? Not the memorizing everything. What you should practice, understanding the question. That's the most important thing, right? That you need to practice. To that, you need to do past papers. Take now, take all the past papers, all the past papers. There's no much difference, right? And uh, as I said, for my student, I'm always saying 3 times you need to do the past paper, right? Take first question and read the question and write a graph like we did, right? Then understand the question. Then think about the answer. You don't now no time, no. You don't want to waste time on writing it, right? Then see the suggested solution and don't rely on the suggested solution, right? Don't rely on suggested solution. There are some errors that I have seen, right? There are many errors that I have seen. Sometimes they are providing popular answer, not the correct answer. As I said, this knowledge is very hidden, right? This tax knowledge is very hidden one because the people are earning from this, earning from the knowledge. Therefore, they don't give the knowledge perfectly. So a suggested solution, I'm not recommending to rely on that, but you better ask from someone who is knowledgeable, some person who is knowledgeable, right? Or you can ask from me if I'm always trying to help others. If you look at me, if you know me, you know that I'm always trying to share my knowledge, right? So do that, practice it. And I said that after end of this question, I'll explain every area of the non-resident taxation step by step, right? So do you want me to continue that, or do you want me to end the class? Now it's 12, no? If you want, I can continue and explain every area, right? Or that will take another 1 hour, right? Till 1 a.m. Or if you want to end the class today's session, I can end it now. The most requirement will be served. Right. So what do you think? Do you want me to continue or do you want me to end the today's session? If we are continuing, I'll explain each and every section that applicable for non-resident person taxation again. So you can memorize it and write it. What do you think? 𝐾𝐢𝐬𝐜𝐿 will end today's sessions. Okay, we'll continue. Just saying we'll continue. Time. Two answers. How much saying will continue? Others, one 𝐾𝐢𝐬𝐿 is saying will end. What about the others? No any ladies? No any ladies? Sashini, Prishant, Janaka. So what to do? Only 50-50. 𝐾𝐢𝐬𝐿 says will end. Ahmad says will continue. What about the others? No, no one. If no one saying will continue, that means everyone is sleeping. Madhush, Krishanta also saying. Madhush also saying go on, sir. Okay. Okay, so you are ready for this. So you are in the mindset, right? Mindset, right? And I'm not saying that Jaisilika is not in that mindset. That everyone has certain requirements. Maybe you have to go to office tomorrow early in the morning, right? But give some sacrification, right? I'll quickly explain, and if you want, I'll explain again and again. So non-resident person taxation, first steps, right? First steps. I'll give every steps. I'll write it here, right? One by one. I prepared the note here. I'll write it here, right? First one, residence of. Now we discussed this, right? I want to make this formalized. You need to decide resident or non-resident, right? As per section, I take the section here, section 69. No, resident or non-resident. Section 69, right? So you read it again and again. Next one. Then what? What is the next step? You should able to remember this now. Next step, source in SL taxable. Section 4. Next step, what are the source? Section 72 and section 73. Mostly section 73, right? Even I mentioned section 72. Mostly in simple, if you are doing it in simple terms, section 73. Next one, right? Then you need to determine this source. Under this source, it will be determined whether you need to have PE or not. There are a few measures. Yeah. Now you are in the tract, right? You are in the tract. Whether there is PE or not, right? Next one. Next one. If there is PE, I'll take it here. If there is a PE, can you see these letters? Is it too small? Is there is a PE? Then what you do? Yeah, tax liability, correct. Next step, tax liability, right? Next step, tax liability. Under that, you need to. Now, this is the right. It can be taken as a sixth step also, right? That is the tax liability. If P not P, what is the tax liability? If P, if not P, right? That need to be done. Right? If there is a P, what are the steps? If there is a P, If there's a PE, you need to write that section. At the exam, you will get, you will impress your examiner if you write all these things, right? Section 76 2C. 2C, PE will be distinct. You don't need to write the section actually, right? This section don't write. These are coming under transfer pricing section. Sometimes examiner will not much aware about this, right? So better to write like this. PE will be distinct and separate entity for tax purpose from its parent and other associate. That need to be written, right? First one. We call it 5.1, then A. Right? Then what else? How you determine PE not? Section 195. Remittance tax also need to be computed. Remittance, yeah, tax as a company at 30%, right? C, remittance tax, remitted profit. But you need to be very careful, right? Only if there is a remitted profit. You just because it's being a PE, you don't compute remittance tax, right? Only if there is a remitted profit. There is a definition for remitted profit, and and there are exemption on remittance tax, right? You better watch my videos. There are exemption on that need to be addressed, right? There were examination questions. There were past papers that discuss on this exemption. Remittance tax on remitted profits. That means profit after tax into 14%. Right? If there's no PE, there's another section. Head office expense. What about head office expense? Head office expenses. Right? Those things I'm giving you the things to remember, right? Now, if you know this summary, you can write a better answer. Head office expense. Under which section it's coming? Can anyone guess? Yes, Sashini is saying it's section 79. Yes, correct. Good. Section 79. Can anyone say under section 79, what is the limitation on head office expense? Section 79, what is the limitation on head office expense? Max 10% deduct. Yeah, I also have seen that in the examination, one of suggested solution, uh, that 10% of accessible income. What do you think? You think that 10% of accessible income can be deducted as let's say your accessible income is 100,000, right? And your head office expense is 12,000. What is the amount that you can deduct? So got up to 10%. For my question, entire 12,000 can be deducted. Madhushi is saying. Others is saying entire 12,000 can be deducted. So your assessable income is 100,000. So everyone saying up to 10% can be deducted, right? Yes, your examiner also saying like that. Yeah, Janak also saying 10,000 can. Now, in example, let's say I'll give here assessable income 100,000, head office expense 12,000. Now, allowable usage 10,000, right? Janaka is saying 10,000. Everyone is saying it is 10,000, correct? Right. There was a question on your exam also, examiner also saying the same view. But I have a different view. Right? Not only me, that I'm aware about these cases. I'm really aware about these cases. So I am not ready to share my practical insight. But see this section, section 79. Let's see how to read the act. Whether I will be wrong or so now read this. This is the head office section, office expenditure part. Right? Now can anybody read this? No deduction shall be allowed for an amount incurred by non-resident person as an expenditure of business carried on by the non-resident person through a Sri Lankan permanent establishment that represents head office expenditure, where the amount would exceed 10% of the person's assessable income. Is there anything said that up to 10% it's allowable? Janaka, is there anything that say that up to 10% is allowable? Read this. No deduction shall be allowed. No deduction shall be allowed. I don't know how to highlight here. No deduction shall be allowed for an amount incurred by non-resident person as an expenditure of business carried on by that resident person through the Sri Lankan permanent establishment that represent head office expenditure. Right? This is the part that it says for head office expenditure. Can we color it using another color? I don't know. Let's say right. This is the part that says no deduction shall be allowed for an amount incurred by non-resident person as an expenditure of business carried on by non-resident person through a Sri Lankan permanent establishment that represent head office expenditure, where the amount would exceed 10% of the person's assessable income. What it does says, where the amount exceed. If the amount exceed 10%, no deduction shall allowed. If the amount exceed 10%, no deduction shall allowed. Is it say up to 10% can be deducted? Any answer? Any different view? I'm not saying I'm correct. So I have seen the examiner also taking your view, but I have different view. That's why I'm asking. And in cases I have seen this there was arguments on these areas, right? So IRD do not take your view, right? If your view to be established, that should be addressed by Court of Appeal or not. Court of Appeal, that should be addressed by Supreme Court, right? What is the wordings? Wordings here. No deduction shall be allowed where the amount would exceed 10% of the. Now give the firstly give the what should be happen. No deduction allowed. Then when where the amount would exceed 10% of the percent of the person's assessable income. Is it correct or not? The my What do you think, Janaka? See the importance of way of reading, that there are a lot of areas that you need to read like this, right? In your suggested solutions, they are giving nonsense sometimes. You need to read it properly. Sometimes you don't learn it. I'm very sad on that. Our students, our chartered accountants is not getting proper knowledge, right? Sometimes I'm very sad. I have spoken this in several forums, right? We are building a chartered accountant, so we should give them the ability to think, right? Not just passing the exam. Uh, am I correct or incorrect? Did you understood what I said? Did you understand? Yes, Jayatilag is correct. I feel it says amount should not exceed 10% of assessable income. If it exceeds 10%, then no deduction shall allow. It says amount should not exceed. So beyond that, not allowed. So where how you conclude that beyond that is not allowed? So shall we conclude it using a, let's say, let me open the single act also. Everyone is aware about single, right? That single act prevails when there is a difficulty, right? So you read the single act and for next session come with conclusion. I'm not taking your time on this area, right? So you read the single act also and do a research on this area, right? For your exam, you can write whatever both way, right? They should give marks, right? The correct interpretation, as per my knowledge, is no amount should be allowed. That this provision is some mistake made by the IRD officers when uh, giving the when passing the act, right? Passing the act. This is the mistake that they have made. The draftman made the mistake here. That real intention was to allow whatever beyond, as you said, whatever beyond 10% should be allowed. That's the real intent. That was the real intention, right? However, they have made a mistake in wording. They accept that. We discussed with the IRD officer. They accepted. They have made a mistake. However, law is now finalized. Law is finalized that no deduction will be allowed when there is a if you are in branch office, you are working as tax people in your branch office. If you are working in a branch office, please keep in mind you keep your head office expenditure only up to 10% or below that. If it is exceeded, IRD taking the position that they will disallow entire head office expense, right? That's sure, 100% sure. Until this section getting amended, that will happen, right? This is not getting amended. Why? There are no people who demanding on that. People do not demand to amend this provision. Why? No much of application. no much of application, right? There are no much of application for head office expenses. No. Therefore, people do not demand it. People do not lobby for this, right? So this is a very important point. If I were your examination, I'm including this and I'm taking you all out, right? If I was the one who prepare your paper, because I know everyone thinking in otherwise, right? Come back to our discussion. Here, remember, I'll give my interpretation here. You do a research on this and understand your way, right? But examiner gave mark to your thinking also. But my thinking is that not only my things, IRD thinks in and many serious tax professionals thinks also same, right? So head office expenses should be below 10% of assessable income. If not, total head office expense will disallow. Right? You take this to when the now technology is there. No? You take this para into your chat GPT and ask your scenario and ask it and give me the answer also. You copy this part and put into ChatGPT and ask, in this case, when there is the accessible income of 100,000 and head office expense of 12,000, what is the disallowable amount? So he know English better than us, no? Right. That is one part of PE. PE that you need to remember that part, right? If not PE, then what? If not PE, what you do? Then you anyway identify what is the source in Sri Lanka under section 73, right? Service fee. If payment is a service fee that is liable under section 85. What's the section I said? 1B. 1B, right? You don't need to remember this, right? You don't need to remember this. This rate part you don't need to remember. It's 14% tax. 14% tax and final withholding payment other than for citizen, other than for citizen. If payment is a investment return, other than investment return, then schedule 1 para 10. Then dividend 15%, others 14%. Right? These are the rates. Right? Final withholding payments. All are final withholding payments. Next, what you should write? Step 5.2. Next important step, main step, section 75. ETA prevail over IRA. Section 75. that you need to write, right? Then, then what you need to write? Then what? You mean next step? Madhush is providing deductible expenses. He has put it into a ChatGPT. What Madhush you have done? You just asked this, so you copy and pasted this para. Copy and pasted, or just ask the answer. Madhush, have you copy and pasted this section or section 79 or directly ask from the ChatGPT that whether it is allowable or not? Have you copy and pasted and asked to analyze? What I wanted is not to ask from ChatGPT. Don't rely on ChatGPT for tax consultancy, right? Uh, Copy and pasted. Hmm, I don't think. I don't think ChatGPT would give that answer. Maybe he has given, but what I have seen in practice is total is not allowed, right? That's the IRD interpretation, and uh, maybe that's other interpretation we cannot argue actually, right? There are cases, but we can't. I cannot reveal everything. In practice, we are working with ethics. No, I can't reveal everything. Right. Next one. DTA prevail over IRA, Section 75. Now, from DTA, what you look at? Next one. Based on DTA, analyze. First one, 1.1, first one, residence status. This is mostly applicable for individuals, right? Why I'm saying? Firstly, beginning of our lecture, I said if one person is residing in Sri Lanka, that's based on local law. So in DTA, it's given the tiebreaker rule, right? If a person become resident in both countries, how the residence is to be determined. So this is important for individuals. If individual question given, residency, you need to determine residency tiebreaker rule for individuals, and the companies same thing under law. Then you need to look at P status, right? Then you need to look at type of income, article which related to type of income, right? ETA period. Before that also you need to apply another section. What is anti-avoidance provision? What is the anti-avoidance provision? What is the anti-avoidance provision? Relief for relief of BTA can apply only if 50% or more of underlying ownership or control of the body of person is with individuals or individuals who are residents of foreign country, who are residents of other contracting state. Yeah, other state, right? So it's bit lengthy. It's a bit lengthy. However, you need to remember this part. But at the exam, you need to write it, right? You can remember it as anti-avoidance provision, 50% rule, right? Ownership rule. You can remember like that, right? Then these are the steps. These are all the steps. And this restriction do not apply to a very important, not applicable for public companies. This restriction do not apply for public companies, right? Right. Now this is the your entire non-resident tax question, right? Now it's very easy for you. I have summarized everything. It's a matter of remembering these steps. Now today you can remember every step and write a perfect answer for your question. If you write all of these things, that means you write a perfect answer. Right? Now only 13 is to now. Oh my God. They are missing this now. So you share with them. Right. Are you clear? Everyone clear on that? Everyone clear on that? Any question? Any question? Any question? Any area? Yeah, Jayatilaka saying in the single act he has referred. It's the view I said is correct, right? So in the English act also it's same, right? Even your ChatGPT saying like that, you read it. It's no deduction shall allowed, right? If English act does not say otherwise, say like you say, I don't think. I don't think that English act says like that. It's clear, no deduction shall be allowed for the head office expense. Madhush, yeah, expect employees tax liability. You looked at it because that OECD recently, this November 18 issued it, right? That's connected to this area also. So it's important point. So what is your question, Madhush? Tax liability of Sri Lankan expat employees. What is your question? So are you clear on this area, this part? This part you have to remember, right? So now you know. Now you can remember. Oh, this I'll break into another part also. IRA, this entire area and IRA. Then this part DTA. First you look at IRA, then only DTA, right? Expat employees, as per definition, they are residing and they are residents. Is there a provision of exempt in them? So, Madhush, you are asking for Sri Lankan employees working abroad or foreign employees working in Sri Lanka? SL in abroad. Yeah, I believe that they should pay tax in Sri Lanka. Yeah. So there are different interpretation. In the last few months' time, it was discussed. Now the rate is being increased for 15% from exemption to 15%, right? So government has taken another view that IRD officers, some of IRD officers has taken a view that they are non-resident, but there are question in the law, right? Their interpretation is not correct. What IRD officers are saying, IRD officers and some tax consultant, senior tax consultant in big firms also saying that, but for my opinion, it's not correct. So I'll explain it like this. Section 69, right? Section 69. Now the question is whether non-expat employees working abroad is resident in Sri Lanka or not. That's the main question. After that only you need to consider. Now they are not staying in Sri Lanka for 183 days. So this provision is not applicable. This one also not applicable. This is for government employees. And next one is foreign one. So B, C, D is not applicable. Now go to resides in Sri Lanka. Right? Reside in Sri Lanka. The term resides in Sri Lanka is not defined. Is not defined. Right? So I'll let me open another book. Can you see this screen? This new book. So for the moment, in practice, you don't pay tax. Foreign employees, you should not pay tax. But I'll explain the problem that is having in this provision, right? So this is the IRD draft guide. You can download it from the IRD website, right? Everything, many things are explained here, but you don't stick on their interpretation. Some correct interpretation are there, some incorrect one there, right? That's why it's called draft. Sri Lanka, here, individual residence is decided on primary test and two residual test. Person is considered to be resident in Sri Lanka, reside in Sri Lanka. As there is no definition for reside, therefore general meaning has to be taken. Availability of permanent home in SL, location of individual's family in SL would amount to resides in Sri Lanka. Right? Is present in Sri Lanka for 183 days or more during any year of assessment. Para 1C. Right? So what IRD and some of IRD officers and some consultants are saying that resides mean you should habitually stay in Sri Lanka, right? Habitually stay in Sri Lanka. So let's say you should stay in Sri Lanka. Habitually means continually you should stay in Sri Lanka. If someone goes abroad, they say they do not reside in Sri Lanka, right? However, this draft guide to IRD say if you have permanent home or center of vital interest, we call economic interest, social ties. Your family is in Sri Lanka, your home is in Sri Lanka, your main employment in Sri Lanka, then there is a residence in Sri Lanka. We use that interpretation. This draft guide also provide that interpretation. So those employees that work abroad as a residency in Sri Lanka. Therefore, they become resident and all other taxes applicable to us apply to them. That's a one interpretation, right? Next interpretation is that reside is not this habitual. This is called domicile, right? This called domicile, but reside is not the domicile, right? Reside is different. Reside is you are habitually staying in some place. So if you are staying in Sri Lanka as a habit, then you are reside in Sri Lanka. Person who are working abroad do not stay in Sri Lanka. Therefore, they do not reside in Sri Lanka. That's another interpretation. The problem here is if that's the case, if if they are not reside in Sri Lanka, then why you are coming with this provision 183-day rules? Even with simple staying in Sri Lanka, you will be, even without 183 days, you will be considered as resident in Sri Lanka. This reside, they are saying physically present in Sri Lanka, right? There was articles written by some tax consultant and IRP officers also in Daily Fit or something. Say that in that article they are saying resides mean physically staying in Sri Lanka. If the resides mean physically staying in Sri Lanka, why this provision board? Why this 183 days rule here? If the reside is physically staying in Sri Lanka, even I stay for 3 months, I should be a resident in Sri Lanka. So those questions arise with that definition. However, for practice and IRD interpretation is that you don't need to pay taxes here, being foreigners. So you also apply that. That's benefit, no? So Madhush, you got my point. There's a confusion there, right? Have you got my point? Right. Madhush got Sachitra. How about the seafarer works in foreign ship? That's coming under another section, no? He is employed on official of government Sri Lanka and his spouse is person is an individual who is employed on a ship on a Sri Lankan ship within the meaning of the Merchant Shipping Act during the period of individual so employed. So if he is working in a ship, Sri Lankan ship, then he is a resident in Sri Lanka. Correct, Sajitra? Yeah, a sweat now, if a sweat is no more there, no requirement to test that part. But basically, for VAT question, it was there for continually. Therefore, there will be a question on what is risk-based question. So kind of thing can be risk-based VAT system. Kind of. Actually, I am thinking that your examination will ask some audit areas, right? As a now your syllabus, next syllabus is more on to that ethics planning kind of thing, no? So your exam also they will ask if SSA does not provide, if SSA asks for bribery, what you should do as a tax consultant or as a guy who is working in tax, what are the procedures elaborated under administrative provision under your act on that such kind of situation. Likewise thing they can ask, right? So there are many areas that we will discuss. I'll try to now pre-scene is there. Have anyone read the pre-scene? So we will discuss many areas using that pre-scene also. And keep in mind that this latest development will be tested. If you want to see latest development, see my LinkedIn that I have shared that OECD one. Many things I am sharing usually for everyone's knowledge, right? And this home office PE in this non-resident person tax could be tested, right? So it's there no in society, everyone is working for foreign company. Now there is a question whether that foreign person become a Sri Lankan PE or not, foreign company. These ongoing cases and decisions would not be tested. You cannot answer on that. No, something related to that could be, but cases won't be. And anything else? Now we stayed over 3 hours. No, no 3 hours. No, we start 9, 11, 12, 4 hours. Good. Only 11 left. Others has to go to work. Anything else? Or you are fine. Now you are confident. Are you confident now? That's what I want. Are you confident in answering non-resident person question? Sajitra, Madhush, Jayatilaga, Krishanta, are you confident on answering this question? Right. Yeah. Yes. So do you want me to take another non-resident person question, or do you want me to take another one in next session? What do you think? Do you want me to take? Okay. Do you want me to take another non-resident person question for next session also? No. Yeah. Okay. So I also hope that you are okay to manage VAT question, right? VAT with updates. Let's see. Oh, okay. Let's do a VAT question also. And I feel that you are okay for income tax question, unless there are specific tax planning concerns asked, right? Simple computing, if you practice 3 past papers, you can do. If you follow that past papers I did, so you can do it, right? Um, so that's all. So let's see. This non-resident part is a very difficult part for everyone. I know, not only for you guys, not only for students, but for even tax consultant, even chartered accountants, it's very difficult. But with this method, I hope now you will understand everything. You will remember. You will somehow manage to get at least 9 marks. At least 9 marks for 10 marks question. Now everything is here now. Everything is here. So you need to write it. That's all. However, you need to write all these things. Then you are getting 100% mark. What is difficult for you is next is understanding what type of income is this. Where the source in Sri Lanka and type of income, right? Type of, this is the difficult part for me, for you also, right? So this part you will tackle once you practice the question. Practice question and answers. Right. Okay. Then shall we end up now? It's 1 a.m. Time to sleep, no? Or you study another hour, you remember that you write short note and another hour study and then sleep. Okay. So shall we meet on another session? Thanks for this institute that organizing these things, and good night, everyone. Thanks. So anyone, if wish, you can join with our rapid revision course. I have discussed past papers. There are more past papers. If you want to look at that, you can join and see that past papers as well. And there are free session in YouTube also. So that's also good. You better watch it. Right. Okay. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining and staying until late night. Okay, everyone.